Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans, and today is the start of the fresh semester 2026, Level 1, Lesson 1. So, for anyone who is new to the class and you don't know exactly how this works, each week I do this live lecture, and then, hold on, I'm admitting someone to the meeting. It's good if you access your recorded homework lesson before we begin. So that way you know what I'm talking about. If you don't have time to do so, then it's also okay to access it after you've heard the lecture. But please know that although I do my best to include everything that I have in those original whiteboards that I created at the beginning of this class more than 10 years ago, there will always be details that escape my attention in the moment or things that I just can't even get my brain to say through my mouth in live lecture. So it's very worth it to go through all of those whiteboards. And also, I do a lot with talking with pictures and really speaking to the visual aspects of your mind and color coding things. So it's also great to watch those and to re-emphasize this as basic foundational knowledge. Even if you've been in the class for a long time, reintroduce yourself to those basic whiteboards, especially level 1, lesson 1, and level 1, lesson 2. Because lesson 2 is all about basics of electromagnetism. You know that I'm not a scientist and that I am using language of, I call it Earth's surface science, to be able to talk about things that are really abstract energy. So I had to learn over many years ago the vocabulary of the scientific mindset, and then I'm trying to build a bridge between what people already know. And if that's not relevant to you and you just want to delve directly into the higher dimensional viewpoint, I greatly respect that too. Okay, so let's also begin. I'm not going to apologize. I will celebrate. I am working with the clipboard now because you guys might have noticed me over many, many semesters. Like when I have to stare at the screen and read little tiny things in order to be able to access my notes, very, very difficult for me. And I started to realize like the problem is not me. The problem is I'm staring at a bunch of false light on the screen. So here I have my wonderful paper notes. And so I am excited that I go over my notes now and look at everything on a piece of paper. So thank you for celebrating with me on that. And also, I'm so excited when people come to the live lecture because it's a little bit difficult for me to stop in the middle, touch technology, and admit people to the meeting. I ask that people come, on time. Thank you very much for coming on time. And then also, when you come into the meeting, please always make sure that you mute yourself. Those are all of my administrative things out of the way. Let us jump directly in. Okay, so today's lesson is all about the chakras. What are the chakras? And what do I mean when I talk about this? It's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. It is the foundational, easiest song you can play, the beginning of your musical career, what you're learning in order to be able to learn greater and more complex things going forward. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to hold up this sculpture. And you have seen this probably many times before if you're a enrolled student. And if you're new, and if this is the first time, then I'm excited. And let me grab a little stylus so I can show you this to explain to you what this is. So first of all, chakra is a Sanskrit word. Sanskrit is from India, and I'm not from India at all, and I don't speak the language. But it's an ancient word that responds to the antediluvian knowledge that that area of the world holds. Sorry, post-diluvian. I'm sorry if I said the wrong thing, so I'll start from the beginning again. Thank you for understanding my mistakes. India, in the current world here, holds knowledge and information that actually percolates to you or derives from the level of reality that we call Atlantis. So the concept of chakras and what they are doing is esoteric knowledge that was held in that culture for a long amount of time. So the word chakra means spinning wheel, and it was representative in India of a champion, a person who is a charioteer. So in the world that we're talking about, they would do conquests, like battle conquests. And when you had conquered an area or a territory, you were victorious as a charioteer. If you don't know what a chariot is, hold on, I'll gesture for you. It's got two wheels. It's a two-wheeler, and then you have a horse pulling you in the front. So when you were victorious in that time place of over a territory, you could go all the way from one end to the other as a charioteer. No one would give you a problem. Okay, so there's an association with freedom, freedom of movement, and forward motion. And when you look at this shape, I hope that you can see, like, here's one wheel, here is another wheel, and then here's the axle that goes through the middle. And you could imagine this being like a type of chariot that moves forward and brings you across a territory. And I would like for you to consider yourself to be the triumphant charioteer who is balancing the wheels of your time body in order to be able to effectively move across the territory in freedom, like having conquered, in air quotes, or transcended evil and crapola. Okay, good, 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 good. So as I teach about this, so the ancient esoteric knowledge about what chakras are, that's why I use that word. But when most people in your world talk about chakras and the spiritual traditions from Asia, they represent it as if it is just a glowing ball of energy. And maybe there's one here, and maybe there's one here, maybe there's one around your whole body, but it is amorphous. And so I am here with higher dimensional knowledge in order to explicitly draw for you that this is not an amorphous blob, but it has very, very clear membranes and energy patterns. And I'm going to describe to you today some of the basics of what this is, and also the foundations of the proportions that these exist within. So I don't know if I've ever shown this to you. Both of these things are made out of like this 3D filament stuff. It was very difficult to work with, so I didn't make that many sculptures out of this, but I'll just stop and I'll gesture for a moment. So this was meant to be part of a larger piece. I was going to make a bunch of these, but I didn't. But this is an accurate representation of the proportions that are, I'm trying to hold it up against something so you can see, the proportions of how these chakras are arranged, how these layers of yourself are arranged. Hold on, I want to make sure that I have the audio correct. I do. Good job. Because my AC just kicked on, I'm like, oh, good. I hope those guys aren't hearing that. Sorry, I had to touch technology for that. Trying to give you a visual about how these guys are arranged. Because when I show you this, I'm only showing you one layer of reality. So I hope that you can imagine, you guys are getting very good at imagining and envisioning that a shape like this exists within each one of these hollow areas. All right. So first, we're going to get into the concept of these shapes being fractal, self-similar, and nested. And then we're also going to get into the idea of positive and negative space. So the first thing is, let's talk about art school. We're in art school now, everyone. You're like, thank God we're not doing math, right? Don't worry, math class will come later. Okay, in art school, just going to admit someone to the meeting. Then I might not touch technology for a little while. In art school, we talk about the positive and the negative space. So it doesn't mean that you like something or one is better or the other. Like, I like positive stuff, I don't like negative stuff. No, the negative space is the space that can hold somethingness. So this shape has negative space. The negative space is where I'm pointing with my pinky finger, right here, 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 and here. This shape represents the negative space of this shape. So like the negative space of my coffee cup is the space that can contain the water, right? The negative space of the 4 vortices of your chakras is this. And these are both important, important, important shapes. So I'm setting you up for success by helping you to play Mary Had a Little Lamb, because understanding this and then understanding this helps you to comprehend what people call the flower of life, or the shape of water molecules, optimizing the shape of an arrangement of water molecules within your body. And that is essential embodiment knowledge and skills going forward for you to be able to accelerate to light speed or ascend or transcend physical reality. So you're like, wait, transcending physical reality perked up my ears. I want to learn more. And I'm like, good job. Buckle in and learn Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And that will be the foundational knowledge for you to be able to help to transcend physical reality. Okay? But we're not doing, can I jump directly to transcending physical reality? I'm like, stick with the class. We got to learn some stuff first. Good. So this is the representation of these spaces in here. It's not drawn to scale. This doesn't actually fit inside of here, but I had the smaller yellow sculpture and it at one point did. All right. So this is going to relate a lot to what people call the flower of life. But first, let's turn our attention to, I want to talk about the color proportions. I want to talk about the anthropomorphic form. But first, I want to talk about the membrane of death. So again, Other schools of thought, philosophies, and physical teachers have not taught you that your chakras contain this area of time-space called the membrane of death. They have simply taught you that your chakras are energy centers, but not very much about what they're doing. But I am here with very, very real intention for your personal empowerment and freedom. So I'm teaching you what your anatomy is, what you contain, what it's doing, and then also, of course, how to master it and how to be empowered through it. So these arrangements here are made out of time. This is a part of your body that is made of time. We're going to talk today about what I call your light body, but it is also your time body. These membranes themselves are made of possibilities and probabilities. The best way I can start to help you to comprehend this is to bring up the wonderful puzzle game called Sudoku. You're like, this is math, this is math, this is math. Please stay. Don't go anywhere. Don't run away. If you can imagine that this is the torus shape as it is presented, like, a donut with a skin around the outer part of the donut, like where the cupcake sprinkles would go on the outside part of the donut, those sprinkles are actually arranged according to a precise mathematical formula. Just like the puzzle game Sudoku. In Sudoku, you have like a grid, and you have to make sure that all of the numbers add up going across from 1 through 9, 1 through 9, 1 through 9, 1 through 9, all these different ways. You must make sure that all of the numbers add up and balance. And that's very, very apt and accurate to what is happening when you map the membrane of the torus. So I think I've mentioned this guy in class before. It's never a total endorsement of the man. I don't know who he is as a person, but as a mathematician, he is intelligent. His name is Marco Rodin, R-O-D-I-N, and he's done a lot of work in your accepted fields of study, like your university level study, in what the torus shape is, what is vortex-based math. And as I did that, I'm making this little figure 8 because his whole thing is helping humans to comprehend and map vortex-based math, which is the comprehension that you can look at math in a nonlinear form. You're used to looking at math like this: 1 plus 1 equals 2. It's in a line. Here it is. Start over here, go through here, and then go over here. It's a line. But when you comprehend vortex-based math, what you're doing is looking at vectors, and the direction, the vector, the movement of energy around the map or around the form represents what numbers are doing. If they go in one direction, they're adding up. If they go in another direction, they're subtracting. If they go in one movement, one dance movement, they're multiplying. If they go in another dance movement, they are dividing. That is critical integument for you to comprehend what your time body is doing and what your DNA is doing. Because now I will do my dance, because that's what your lasagna is doing in your body with your DNA. Good. So when I make those little dance movements, what I'm representing with my fingers are like the strings of your DNA inside of you doing these amazing, almost acrobatics or like crocheting, knitting, because they weave themselves together, pull themselves apart, do all sorts of interesting dances. Those movements are actually representing math. They are not a boring, idiotic randomness. They are a very interesting, very highly considered expression of higher dimensional sentience. That is light that flows through your body. Hooray and cheers to everyone who took my Path of Light class. I'm so grateful to you, because that's the real heavy lifting to make it possible for you to comprehend more of what light is doing, but you really understand what I was talking about. The dance of molecules, the intelligence that is found in, let's say, the movement of molecules here in the gaseous atmosphere around my face, where you've got different gases that are bumping into each other. And the objective materialist science would say, in a very reductionist sense, oh, how boring, like nothing is happening. Those molecules are just randomly bouncing around. But the super intelligent and perceptive, insightful person, where's my stylus? If you have your tendril of attention and you place it on the molecules, you can see, oh, wait, this isn't stupidity, this is intelligence, and it's dance. And I need to get smart enough to be able to comprehend and calculate that dance. So you have dancing numbers in your DNA and also in your chakras. And I just heard somebody click into position because I wanted to go ka-chunka, chunka, chunka. So that's good. So I'm glad that these ideas are hitting home for you. Yes, you have a dance of numbers that's on the surface of these membranes of your chakras. And the interplay of those numbers represents the interplay of events in your world. So when you look at musical notation, I don't even read musical notation, so I'm not an expert. I'm different in how I play and comprehend my music. But like the traditional Mozart music, where you have five, so I'm going to say strings, and then you have black dots up and down. That's an abstraction. It's a representation of something that you can hear with your ears, but it's not the music itself. If you put that music, if this is musical notation, I put it next to my ear, do I hear anything? No. You have to actually translate that as an abstract potential into actual music. Similarly, the numbers and the dynamic dance on the skin of the membranes of your torus and toroid structures in your body are adding up to a type of music that must be experienced in reality. So you're not just looking at the abstract notes that are written on the page. That doesn't sound like music. But when you are actually embedded in the world of space, time, and matter and biology, that is where the music is played and the music is experienced. So these chakras represent abstract potentials for your life experience. I want to say the good, the bad, and the ugly. All right. So I want to go into my shorthand of how I draw this, because this is all very good training, but like I'm having a lot of issues with touching technology. So I'll just say blanket forgiveness. Please forgive me. Forgive me my trespasses as I lose my mind whenever I touch technology. Thank you. So let me grab a pencil here. One day I'm going to have a regular, like, blackboard. I'm just gonna, no, this thing. I don't know where to find. There we go. So let's say that, let me make it bigger. There we go. So you can see, because I know some people are on their phones. All right. So this is that same sculpture. And of course, we have one vortex down there, one vortex up here, and then one vortex I'm going to draw like this, and then another one that goes like this. And this is not the most perfect drawing in the world, but you get what I'm talking about. When I go forward in this class and draw the time vortex, I'm going to focus on this area of the sculpture. So I'm going to start drawing it as this simple shorthand. You can see that that's that quadrant down there. And then let me change the color here, because now I'm going to show you this. Trying to draw the best line I possibly can. This is the line of ascended mastery. It has to look halfway decent. Boom, I did it because I made it go through that little wormhole. Okay, so now let's talk about the anatomy of this diagram. This central point here is singularity. It represents the balance of all of the inward pushing forces of consciousness that are causing the membrane of time, space, and consciousness to stretch. I didn't want to say depress, because it's so depressing when I talk about these depressions, these gravitational depressions. But we will say it is stretching, and it's a stretching infinitely inward, which is why I draw the infinity symbol over here, because this is a hugely exaggerated sense of this timeline being the one timeline that goes to infinity in this map of all of the possibilities of what can happen. So this map contains every single song that you can ever play in your life with your body ever. That's a pretty amazing amount of information to even stop to consider. If you cannot sleep at night, or you are standing in line at the grocery store, please consider that. Every single possible decision that you could ever make, like even just walking through the grocery store, you're like, will I buy coffee? Will I buy tea? What brand of coffee will I buy? Will I buy this? Will I buy this? Will I buy filter, drip, or espresso? What will I buy? What will I buy? All of the many, not only consumer choices, but life choices are represented and mapped by the shape of the torus. And they all have to fit within the correct equations of your life. So let's use coffee as an example. On one timeline over here within this giant time vortex, you choose to buy coffee at the store. And then because you chose whatever chock full of nuts brand of coffee, you went in a particular reality structure. And on a slightly different parallel timeline, you chose Folgers coffee. You're in a different area of the time field because of that. You made different choices, these different vectors, motivations, and equations that ended up as a result are the overall structure of the skin of the torus. Because in Sudoku, you have to have everything add up from 1 through 9. So if you chose Folgers coffee, all of the rest of the events of your life have to rearrange around that choice in order for everything to balance and add up. Yes, the micro minutiae do matter in your life, but no, don't struggle at the store when you're like, do I choose the coffee? Do I choose the tea? I want to be on the right timeline. What you do is, with your essence, you aim yourself for this timeline here. I'm emphasizing it so that you can see it. But of course, it's very, very slender, and there's only one of them. Because over here you have a wormhole, and I'm again overemphasizing it, but it's the tiniest little hole. And it's the smallest one because there's only one pathway from all of the amazing, almost uncountable number of choices in your life. There's only one pathway that leads you to infinity, to singularity, to the source that originated you, and to the reconnection to light speed and the path of light. This is an incredibly important timeline to be on. It is called the path of least likelihood, and it is the path of you as an ascended master. So when you look at these chakras, everybody has chakras. You must have chakras to be alive. It's like saying in order to be in time, you have to have time. You have to have a time body. So I'm very skeptical if people ever say that they have removed their chakras. Don't think it's possible. It's like saying you have removed your blood supply. And also you would not want to harm your chakras unless you are extremely self-destructive, because these are essential ways of being able to connect to time. You really literally can't be alive without your chakras, and you cannot be mastering time and mastering your consciousness moving forward without your chakras. Please also consider, as some people have promoted the idea, they want to remove their chakras because they're like, this is matrix control system stuff. I want to say control system bullcrapola, like nonsense and stuff that we don't want. I'm going to get rid of these and be free. And I'm like, no, you do not. These are really, really perfect energetic anatomy. I'll go back to my face, but then I will go back to this whiteboard because I just want to stop touching technology for a few moments. These are treasures. You do not want to get rid of your chakras. You do not want to remove them. And the problem that you're having in life is not that you have chakras. Just like saying you came here as an organism, what if you had a rash on your skin? You're like, this is really bad. I'm here as an organism. I have skin and I have some kind of a problem or a rash on my skin. I know what the solution is. I will get rid of my skin. That will also get rid of my problems. You're like, that is simplistic and kind of idiotic. That is how people are acting with their chakras. Like, I got something wrong with my chakras. I think I'll get rid of them. No, you do not want to get rid of them. You want to fix the problem. And of course, where's my lasagna sculpture? For me, my proposed solution to chakra problems is flying rainbow lasagna. So don't throw your chakras away. These are non-disposable. Fix them up, for lack of a better way of saying it. Let's reform them. Let's shape them differently with flying rainbow lasagna. So now we have to talk about those pesky occupiers of the interstices. I'll snap my fingers. This is not the path of light. In the path of light, I'm like, let's not talk about those erroneous things that we don't want to have to talk about. Let's talk about a pristine system. But here we must acknowledge in this class that you are not in a pristine system. So you have the original intentions for how these chakras were created and how they were meant to interact with the biology of your life. And they are not presently acting in that way. They are acting erroneously because of those pesky occupiers of the interstices. Ding! What's the interstices? These membranes right here. These are the interstices. So in that simplified diagram that I did, the little ski slopes, cross section here, those are the interstices. And that is the membrane of death. And most people here are highly acculturated. You're like, ugh, I don't like death. Death is something evil and scary. And also, the afterlife is hell. And so when I talk about these things to everyone, everyone has, not everyone, but I'm hyperbolizing. Many people have, through their cultural projections and comprehensions, been like, oh, like, this is the worst place in the world, right? Like, this is a very bad place. And I'm like, okay, like, let's talk about it. You don't want to go there. It is technically like when you're doing bowling, getting a gutter ball. I've never really bowled, but I do know the analogy. When you're doing bowling, you want to go down the middle, and get all the pins. If your ball goes to one side, it goes in the gutter, and you do not get all the way there, and you do not get to your destination. The membrane of death is like the gutter ball for bowling. You're not supposed to die. You need to hydrate here. So that also in itself is a major reframing of your whole entire existence here. Because right now you're embedded in the world of mortality. We emerge from Atlantis, which is a world of immortality. The distinction between these two worlds is in the world of immortality, nobody hits the membrane of death ever. That means that if this represents your consciousness spaceship, everyone in the world of immortality goes up the center, up the center, up the center, ding, 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 to singularity, to the source that originated you, to divine reconnection, to the infinite journey, and never ends. All right. Only here in this layer of reality, that is actually in aberrance or nonsense that shouldn't even be in existence, do people's trajectories and vectors bring them like this? Hit the membrane of death. Hit the membrane of death. Hit the membrane of death. And every single one of those is like wrong notes on the piano or erroneous math. Things that are being explored that are not intentional timeline combinations of events that are not where you're supposed to be and not where you're supposed to be going. So your efforts are to make your consciousness go in the right place and do the right thing. And that is how you live eternally. It is like being the best possible musician where you're always playing the right note and you never play a wrong note. And if that feels like a difficult level to attain, it is, but it is possible when you are musically literate. So again, like I'm not really musically literate. If you showed me Mozart, I don't think I could probably play it. But when people are musically literate, they can look at those abstract notes and they can be like, oh, I know exactly how to play this because I can read. I can see the patterns of the notes and I know what comes next. So you're like, dun, 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 dun. Oh, let's do Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. You're like, I know the next note because I can read. And you can see over here, it's the next note. Okay, your life should be that way. Your life should be that way. If you go to the store, it should be twinkle, twinkle, little star. And you should be like, do I want to buy coffee? What brand of coffee do I want to buy? And then you make the right choice. And then your life adds up to the correct equation that brings you to eternal life as opposed to death. So please know that you have been coming of age and calibrating your whole entire life in a world that tells you erroneously that death is inevitable, a necessity, and even a reward for doing good in some way, because there's been this projection of what happens in afterlife that you want to die because you think you're going to get rewarded in afterlife, some kind of a heaven or a paradise that will restore you or be worthy of the challenges that you did when you were doing bad math in life. I know that that wasn't the best verbal description, but I know that you guys connected with it. It's been incentivized. Hitting the membrane of death has been incentivized, and it should not be. It's an aberrance. No one should hit the membrane of death. You should stay alive. And staying alive is the reward for a life well lived. You should try to do good math. So please just recalibrate around that whole truth, because you think about so many things that people do in the world, in your world, that make themselves die or die prematurely. And they do it sometimes willingly in order to accomplish something. And then they think that they will have a reward in an afterlife. But what they are doing is accepting or aligning with a perceived necessity for mediocrity in time, and then putting themselves onto the membrane of death, which is, it is a no man's land. It is a place where no one should go. It is the forbidden zone. Let's call it the forbidden zone. It is the forbidden zone. It's the gutter ball. It's the place where you're not supposed to go as consciousness. And see, there's many wonderful questions and comments. I don't read them while I'm doing this, but then I will read them later. So thank you for giving me I'm going to stay in my flow. The staying away from the membrane of death is really supposed to be your goal here. First, let me talk about this. I always say this in class every year. When you first come here as a little tiny child, having gestated successfully within your mother's womb, and now you are born, you're like an infant, you're under age 1. At that time, of course, you still have your violet connection to the divine, to the world of higher consciousness. They call that the baby's fontanelle, and it is the area of the skull plates at the top of the head that hasn't fully closed over. And it's very truthful that in the first year of life, a little tiny human infant has not yet individuated from the oceanic or cosmic consciousness that it arrived from, and has not fully individuated and has not fully created what is the ego sense of self and individuation. The ego sense of self and individuation is housed at the level of yellow. When we go through the chakras today, I will tell you all about the map of the chakras and what level of consciousness is where. But please know, yellow is I want to say an infestation. It is an implantation, infestation, non-naturally arising aspect of yourself. When you come here, you get it. You didn't come here with it. And that level of yellow does not translate equally across all species. So for example, a dog's level of yellow and a cat's level of yellow, a horse's level of yellow, a blue whale's level of yellow, these are all different, very wildly different than human. And they're all valid. You are not more intelligent or more. You're not more. So put yourself down. You're yellow. You're not more than anybody else's yellow. But humans, so I'm kind of deriding you a little bit. Humans have this story about the human mind where they think that human mind is better and smarter than anyone else on the planet. And Human even wrote a book that is the satanic literature that says, God gave you dominion over all the other animals. You're the smartest one here. It's like, that's not really true. And also hugely hubristic. And also, like, if the other animals read that in brighter days, they would just laugh. Well, you've treated the other animals very badly. Sorry, not you in this class, but humans. So please know that the yellow chakra and the level of the solar plexus and the human intellect and the human ego is it's, of course, there's a lot of destruction there, a lot of corrosion there, a lot of incorrect thoughts and false light, and a lot of things at that level of implantation that are not naturally arising. That your true mind, I'm going to hydrate because I'm doing so much inner work here. Your true mind, before and beyond the implantations at the level of the human intellect, is much closer to that of a dog, a cat, a butterfly, a blue whale. But many of you have been alienated from your true mind or prevented from being able to even effectively nourish it and access it. And that's why you have to do concentrated efforts like meditation and mindfulness. Meditation and mindfulness, or the flow state, are when you are in your truest mind beyond verbalization. So verbalization arises at this level of yellow intellect. In the brain, let's do evolutionary biology. I'm not going to draw it for you because you know how much I'm having trouble with my allergy to technology right now. But imagine that I'm drawing like this is your spinal cord coming up here, and then this is your brain stem all the way over here. That is analogous to the red chakra over here. And the red, I'm going to show you my drawings and my paintings too. So please, I'm jumping ahead a little bit in our curriculum, but you guys are all ready because you've heard this. So many of you have been in my class many times before. So let's jump directly into what humans call evolutionary biology. The sense that all of these chakras relate to levels of consciousness. So red, as we begin, I know I'm skipping a lot of stuff, I'm skipping ahead in my notes, but red represents not only the physical in this layers of reality, but it also represents a certain level of consciousness, cognitive awareness, and ability to navigate the world in your biology, a level of development in your mind. So this is known in humans as the reptilian mind, but we also have to be conscious about our language, specific about our language. So it's the kind of the loosey-goosey language calls it the reptilian mind. But up here, this is the brain stem with the most basic neurological and cognitive activities that happen there. What happens in the brainstem is your body maintains homeostasis. You don't get too cold or too hot and you stay alive. You breathe. Your heart continues to function. You are also interested in food and reproduction. These are the basic minimums for staying alive. And those are also the, I want to say paradigms or the motivations for what is happening at the level of red. The red chakra is a positive chakra. All these colors are positive colors, but you can't just have red. That would be like saying you're just a bunch of consciousness in physicality matter with like very, very basic survival drives. That would not be considered a positive or an elevated form of life. It hasn't gone into levels of complexity that is what we would actually consider positive and good. So those basic desires must be mitigated by larger concerns. If you just have those raw desires, you have like a effing psychopath. Got it? That's not necessarily good stuff. So on top of there, inside of your brain is what science calls the mammalian brain. It's a cortex that is deep inside, and it involves emotional centers. It's not the outer bumpy convoluted surface area of your brain. It's deep inside. There are limbic system stuff that's like emotional centers, hormones, and other things. And that also corresponds to your orange chakra system, which is your emotions. And your emotions are also, I'll just tilt the camera a little bit over here. So if my navel is here at my belt line, emotions are going to be here below the navel. And that's where your lower intestines are, your reproductive organs, critical infrastructure in your pelvis, lots of life force energy reservoir, stuff that is about not only sexuality, but passion and deep caring. And what I call it the mammalian aspect of your mind and your anatomy. It's contrasted with reptilian because it basically is about community. So the hallmarks of the reptilian mind and the reptilian motivation system are I'm out for number one. I'm looking out for number one. Now I'm doing my tough guy voice, right? The microbe who only cares about himself. I always imagine, what is it, like some kind of like Vinnie Barbarino, like some guy wearing a black leather jacket. He's like, like some tough punk. He's like, oh, I only care about me. But when you get into the orange level of reality, you don't just care about you because you are actually smarter than the reptilians that are in the mere red level of reality. When you're in the orange level of reality, you're like this. Anytime I find a rock that is too heavy for me to lift on my own, I'm going to need somebody's help. Like in the reptilian, I'm looking out for number one level of your mentality. You're like, I don't care. Like I find a rock in the middle of the road, I get rid of it. And also like I kill anybody that I don't like. Like I don't like your face, kid, I'm killing you. But when you need help from other people, you're going to be like, maybe I shouldn't kill that organism because there's this giant rock in the middle of the road and I need them to help me. And you start to look for community. Like, there's something more that I need to do than I can do on my own. I'm going to need to ask for help. This is mammalian stuff. And if you're like, Aurora, that sounds like quid pro quo. I'm like, you're right. It is. Community is based on reciprocity. That's like this. I need your help to move this giant boulder in the middle of the road. And I'm like, I will help you. If you will give me something, what are you going to give to me? Like, I will give you some bananas or whatever. Be like, okay, cool. I will help you. Or will you help me when I need help? And that's called reciprocity. And those are basic, I don't want to say hardwired, but they're at the foundation of your biology because there's a aphorism, no man is an island. You are not meant to live alone in total isolation. Humans are meant to live in a community as bees are meant to live in a beehive. So you're not meant to be like this one person, Vinnie Barbarino, doing it on his own. You're supposed to be working with others. And so the mammalian cortex around the basic survival neurology helps to mitigate some of those survival drives and make people rein in their desires to just kill people or rape them or eat all of their food. All right. And then in your own brain, on top of the mammalian architecture, there is the human level, which is yellow mind right here. And that is on the bumpy, convoluted surface area of the brain where humans who have been doing this type of, I want to say nonsense research, but scientific research into what brains are define as mind. They're like, that's where my mind exists. I have thunk it. I'm truthful. I have thunk it. I'm like the scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz. Like, I'm definitely intelligent here. But no, the scientists are really marginally intelligent, much like the scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz. They are self-proclaimed in their intelligence, and humans are also hugely anthropocentric, and they are defining the rest of the world according to their own intelligence. So I'm like, I make a human intelligence test, and then I give it to a butterfly, and the butterfly fails, and I'm like, screw you, butterfly. You're obviously not as intelligent as me. But the butterfly does not go by like graphite written on a paper. I gave the butterfly an intelligence test. It was an IQ test. It was graphite written on a piece of paper. And the butterfly felt it with its proboscis and with this antenna. It was like, no, nothing interesting to smell here. I think I'll fly away. And the human said, there you go. Butterflies are dumb, right? Got it. That is a total metaphor for human anthropocentrism in the world and why you have to really try hard to get past that level of self-centeredness in moving into planetary telepathy on a natural level. So limitations that arise and that are implanted at the level of this human cognitive intellect also include the ego. Now let's talk about your development, because you're a little tiny baby and you go through all these levels. Like in the womb, first you are a tadpole, and then you are this, and then you're multicellular, and then you're this, and you're this, and this. Like, you go through all the stages of evolution. And then, when you come forward, you are still very, very unformed. You're in your body and you're born and you're an individual in the world, but you don't yet have your story of self. That is what gets implanted and developed and explored at the level of yellow. When you were a tiny child, people held you and they carried you around or whatever, and you didn't know what in the world was going on. And you kept on hearing this weird word, whatever it was, like maybe it was like Mary or Joni or Melissa. And I don't want to make anybody feel self-conscious in this class. I'm choosing these words completely at random, but you just heard these words, these weird syllables. But at a certain point, you heard your name and you were like, oh, Mary is me. They're talking about me. Or maybe it was baby. Maybe they said baby. And you're like, I always hear that word baby. And then you go, baby is me. You start to develop a sense of self. This is actually healthy and positive. Just like you're coming from a tadpole to a multicellular organism and learning about your feelings. And also babies are very much in the me level. They're like, wah, me. And then you have to learn to grow beyond that. So what is supposed to happen is you individuate, learn about yourself, develop your own definition of self, which is your name. So, of course, I did not come here in childhood as you did. I'm a walk-in. And so that means I came here in chronological adulthood. But what I did was a similar level of self-exploration and self-definition in chronological adulthood. So as I came into this body and I was learning about who is me, and what are my preferences? A lot of defining your ego and your identity is based upon your preferences. Like, what do you prefer? Like, I like this shirt. I don't like this shirt over here. Like, I like this food. I don't like this food over here. And this is exactly what tiny babies do. Like, you offer them food and they're like, I like that one. And the other one that they spit it out. Or like the toys. You're like, I like this toy now. I don't like that toy. And little by little, they start to define and construct their personality out of their preferences. You got it. Here is the difficulty that you are all facing. Constructing personality within a very flawed, very highly inadequate, not only social system, but genetic system. And also the construction that you made, the flawed foundational construction is not an eternal self. So there is a difference, and I talked about this in Path of Light, between your ascended personality, or I did a lovely podcast on my friend's podcast, and it's a worthwhile exploration, and I talk there also about what is the ascension personality? Like, I'm Aurora, I'm the ascension personality, not to be condescending, but I have gone through this process. And so I know that who I am and who I am not. So in coming here and constructing myself as Aurora in this place, because I come from many places and you do it weird here. So I had to learn, like, what is the music of this place like? And what is the clothing of this place like? I had to learn about all of your cultural stuff, which is kind of like saying, like, if you are from, United States, imagine if you moved to someplace like Thailand, that was completely different culture. You didn't speak the language and you had to learn how do you express yourself and your truth through those cultural norms and established paradigms. You have to be like, oh, like they tune their instruments like this, and they like colors like this, and they like this like this. So I had to learn how to even make artwork and music that would be perceived as creative expressions and art and music by you guys, because initially I did not make stuff that you even perceived as artwork. And so I had to learn, like, why are people not comprehending this? And then I had to change. And also, so these are fun Aurora stories, but Aurora stories rather. I'm getting a little, whatever, ahead of myself with my articulation. I won't take time in class right now to talk about it, but basically I had to comprehend that you can't just make something that is like an object of art in your world and just like stick it someplace and think that people will comprehend that it is a significant object. Like if you just find this object, randomly on a sidewalk someplace, you'd be like, what's that weird thing? Or what is it? Or you'd be like, is it a bug? Step on it, kill it. It takes something in artwork that is either a frame, like around a painting, to say, this is something important, or put it on a pedestal to set it apart from ordinary objects, to be able to get people to comprehend this is something important. I didn't know that when I first came here. So I had to even learn that, how to create information that is perceivable as information by people who have your level of yellow. So now let's talk about Atlantis. There was an impending catastrophe that is going to happen, but we're going to prevent it, but has already happened on this level of reality. So in this level of reality, your yellow cognitive intellect is different, and your ego is different than who you are when you are constructed in light of your full self. So for many, many millennia here in this world of mortality, where people make gutter balls and go down spiritual cul-de-sacs, they have defined themselves as red, orange, and yellow, the first three colors of the rainbow, but not the totality of existence. So this is the definition of humans for like the past 5 or 10,000 years. And so much of self-description, the sense of a human body, physical cellular structure, like, okay, we can all agree on this. Everybody's got a body. And then also mammalian emotions. Even to scientists and atheists and people who are wedded to and only acknowledging and cognizant of the five senses reality, objective materialists, they all have feelings. They're not like cold, unfeeling robots. Every single one of them has felt either anger or joy or elation or revulsion or disgust. And that's because you're a person and a mammal with feelings. So those are ephemera, and they are not merely biochemicals. It's really important for you to know that. Although in this world, people take all sorts of biochemicals to try to give them an emotional response. That can be anything from alcohol to Prozac to cocaine, but the emotion is not held within the biochemical. You understand those are biochemical portals to make an emotion arise. Emotion, and especially mammalian emotion, is a magic. It's something, when I say magic, it's beyond your rational description. So it can't just be rationalized and weighed out. Like if I asked a scientist, like, how much does your anger weigh? How many grams of anger are weighing within your body? They would not be able to answer that. It is not something that can be perceived or measured within the human materialistic framework. So it becomes very difficult to recognize and talk about it. But that's where we're starting to talk about when we get into the more ephemeral levels of what is still the five senses physical world. So you're getting into your emotions. It's non-tangible. And also your thoughts or cognitive consciousness experiences. These are also non-tangible. Can't put your thoughts on a scale and say, how many grams of intellectual knowledge do you have? Or how many grams of intellectual cognitive activity do you have today? So please know when I talk about these things, I'm being mildly disparaging to the objective science and atheistic viewpoint, because the equipment that you have here to perceive the material world, totally inadequate for what you need to actually be perceiving. So we've stopped right now at red, orange, and yellow. That was the definition of humanity, where they say, to err is human, but to forgive divine. The idea of humans who are disconnected from divinity, disconnected from their own hearts, and also highly fallible, because what this class is called Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. You are a full spectrum human. You are a cellular structure. And you do have mammalian emotions at the level of orange. And you do have a cognitive intellect. All of you are highly adequate cognitive people. You can write, you're literate, you're auditory, you're able to come here and comprehend what's going on, but that's not the only definition of who and what you are. So for many years in humanity, the level of green, which is the heart over here, was preserved only for your spiritual athletes. It's like saying nobody here runs 26 miles except for a highly trained marathon runner who is going to devote their whole entire life to that, and we're all going to clap when they do it. For many years, the level of green was looked at for people who were a monk, people who were a renunciate, going out of society and devoting their whole entire life just to be able to produce energy that is called love. And that is amazing that they did that, but that is not the correct approach, because that love is meant to be the foundational energetic tone for everything that the totality of your light body or your time body does. So being able to produce love is like the prerequisite for being able to even function at a higher level in reality, which is what you're supposed to do. It's not just for special people. So in this class and in this generation, I'm helping you to recalibrate your expectations that you're not supposed to drop everything and live on a mountaintop or renounce the world. You are supposed to, through Flying Rainbow Lasagna and through your own efforts, find a way to produce that love tone even while you are engaging with life. And this is its own real level of mastery, but it is not the end of the journey at all. It is like making it to base camp or developing the spiritual skills and muscles to be able to then go even higher. So let's talk about green. Green is your heart right here. It is a giant force field that emanates and kind of holding this like this so you can see what it's shaped like. But when your heart is beating, it's more than just going like ka-chunga, chunga, 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 chunga to make blood flow through you. Your heart really does create a giant buoyant energy field. And on top of that are your higher faculties. And I'll show you pictures, but for right now, let me just describe it to you. Your higher faculties include your throat, which is light blue, your insight, which is dark blue or indigo, and then ding, like up here where the ballerina has her little crown, the violet, the highest connection. So because all of those things, like in your engine, it's like your engine and your spark plugs and your oil all kind of work together in order to make your car go. I call these the higher faculties because they all work together in order to make your intellect or your true cognitive consciousness go. But the gas to make that higher apparatus of your awareness functional is unconditional love. And unconditional love is not, wait, this can see down here below my navel, this orange level of mammalian emotions. These are two totally different emotional energies. So at the energy of orange, that's where people feel passion that is sexual and even romantic. That is where you either choose that you love someone, or they are your best friend, right? Or you feel warm, fuzzy feelings like pictures of otters holding hands or baby chimpanzees that are friends with kittens. These are your mammalian emotions. And that's also where you will find, apart from fuzzy affections, revulsions, prickly revulsions, where you're like, oh, I hate that person. I hate everything about them. That feeling of disgust or whatever, rejection, social rejection, that's at the mammalian level. Okay, so when I'm talking about the level of love, I am talking about abstract, esoteric energy where you are firmly embedded in time. And the moment of love is a moment of connecting to the present without feeling and connecting with the baggage of the past or anticipating and grasping for the information of the future. So you want to be like Pac-Man. I only know one video game, and this is Pac-Man. Pac-Man is like this little chomping guy, and he eats one dot at a time. Chomp, chomp, chomp. You want to be like Pac-Man in order to create the energy of love. A moment comes to you. Chomp, Then the next moment comes to you, chomp. You don't have to eat 5 moments ahead, which is like, what am I going to do next Tuesday? What am I going to do 5 years from now? That's anticipatory, and it is anxiety. And you don't have to do that. And also, you don't have to feel depression, which is, imagine Pac-Man's not even chomping. He's just standing there frozen. And he's like, I'm sorry, I'm too busy thinking about that dot that I ate 5 minutes ago. I can't move on. I got to think about that dot from all the way back there. Okay, so here's what is different at your level of yellow from other organisms and animals here. Humans perceive time differently. Please remember in your mind back to the time when you were first exposed to the clock. Like maybe you were a tiny child. Maybe you wanted to know when your favorite Sesame Street was on or something like that. You're like, Mommy, I want to watch Sesame Street, but it's none of this. You know something? This analogy falls flat because now people have on-demand streaming, blah, 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 and you can watch Sesame Street at any time. But let us pull way back on the time machine lever and go to a time when you couldn't watch Sesame Street at any time. And let's say it was always on at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, okay? And so you're a little kid and you're like, Mommy, I want to watch Sesame Street. When is Sesame Street on? And she's going to say, not now. When is now? Now is now. Okay, when is it going to happen, Mom? It's going to happen later. When is later? She's like, I'll tell you when it's later. All right. I'm mom. I'm being good. And then a little while has gone by. And then all of a sudden, your mom says, hey, guess what? It's time for Sesame Street. It's later. And you begin to calibrate to that. And then you also start to remember things that have happened in the past. Like as you're a tiny child, you're like, oh, blah, blah, blah. I saw Sesame Street. And your mom will say, that already happened, or that happened ago, or last week. She will give you the time language to talk about something that has already happened. It is bye-bye. Sometimes that's what I say to my dog. Sorry, that's bye-bye. That's not here anymore. That's bye-bye. And as a tiny child, you start to mold your consciousness to comprehend time. Like, oh, the stuff that used to happen, the stuff that is happening now, and the stuff that hasn't happened yet. And all of that is training for kindergarten. Because when you go to kindergarten, what has to happen? You have to get there at the right time. Your mom is going to say, put on your shoes and socks. Tie your shoes. You have to get in the car because we have to get to school on time. And then when you're at school, it doesn't matter what in the world they're teaching you. It does not matter. But what you learn is the day is divided up into segments of time. This happened. Then the teacher said, time to clean up your toys, play the cleanup song. And now it's time to learn your alphabet. And now it's time to have a snack. And now it is time to go home. And now it is time for Sesame Street. And all of that is to structure your mind. That structuring happens at the level of yellow. It is not innate and natural to you, and it creates an artificial relationship that you have with time. Ding, ding, ding. People are connecting. They're like, wait a minute. Aurora started off this class today by telling me that this strange shape that she's holding up is the shape of time. Correct. And so a lot of this is an innate alienation that your caregivers gave you from time itself. Because, there's lots of good stuff from Jose Arguelles. Never full endorsement of the man, but I think he was a good teacher and a great writer. If you go into his writings, it is so dense and so abstruse, real encyclopedic stuff that comes from the ancient Maya, all about time. And yeah, he was an interesting teacher who proposed a restoration of the calendar. We're in a calendar right now that is hugely distorted, and it is solar oriented in the 12 months and also the 12 hours of the day and 12 hours of the night. These are erroneous and disharmonic structures. And what is more harmonious is a 13 moon year. So you have 28-day cycles, and that fits a lot better with the natural cycles of human biology. But please know that I'm also talking about this on a deeper level, because just like, how you count time on your clock here, that's a problem. How you count time throughout the year, that's a problem, because all of this makes you not fully integrate with time, but then so much of it in alienating self from the time field. This is how enslavement happens. What really happens when children are indoctrinated into school and given this scheduled mind state of how to experience time, all of it is preparation for the time or moment in your life when you will have a job. to get to your job on time, work there for the right number of hours, and to sell your time for money. That is why I bring up Jose Arguelles, because he said that you should never do that. And I agree. And I think that he is a good example in the world of human teachers, that he's telling you, look, your society indoctrinated you and told you that it is a righteous thing to say, I will take 1 hour of my day and I'll sell it to you for $6.25 an hour, or $12.39 an hour, or $25 an hour. And Jose Arguelles is saying, no, all of that is a uncivilized relationship with time. It's an exploitive relationship with time. Not only your own life and your own life force being exploited in an enslavement of workforce, but also, I mentioned earlier, every single micro decision that you make is crucially important to the overall fabric of time. You should be in freedom in order to go to the grocery store, in my analogy, and either choose chock full of nuts or Folgers. It should be part of your free will choice, and it should make you either go in a direction that is towards death, gutter ball, not what you want, or towards life. And believe me, all of these tiny decisions do really add up. I am not a determinist at all. I do not agree with the determinism philosophy in your world, which many humans use as a way of disempowering themselves. Determinism is to say, all of this stuff has already been written, and someone else is forcing you to go through the motions. Someone else has written the script or the potentials for your life, and then you are just a hapless flotsam or jetsam floating along on these currents of time, being essentially forced or exploited into doing stuff. And you must not think of yourself in that way. It's not accurate. It's not truthful. It's hugely disempowering. What is really truthful is that within these arrays of multiple possibilities, you have an enormous amount of choice. And even if you don't like anything that's on the menu, if you're like, I have a lot of choices and I don't like any of these choices. Maybe you're like, I don't like that coffee and I don't like that coffee. And I don't like any of these coffees. What can you do? You can flying rainbow lasagna, which is, let me grab an actual pencil here. When you have a pencil with an eraser, you can erase out. You're like, I don't like these time choices. I'm going to erase them because I'm connected to my DNA. And those are things in my DNA. Erase, erase, erase. I don't like those things. And now what I'm going to do instead is write a different story. So I'm going to write instead, Aurora went to the store, and instead of not finding any coffee that she liked, Aurora found exactly the brand of coffee that she liked and triumphantly went to the front and purchased it and brought it home. And then, that was my day. It's day. And then that puts me on a particular timeline. So please know, coffee is my analogy. It's choice in your life. When maybe the choice is about what's going to be your job. What should you do? This job over here is chock full of nuts. This job over here is Folgers. What if you're like, I don't like either of those jobs? Both of those feel like gutter balls. Then what you have to do is erase those possibilities from your own chakras, from your own DNA, and write something better in there. Instead, I found this job and I went in this direction. It's the essence of what I encourage people and teach with Flying Rainbow Lasagna. And when you are doing that, you still must conform to the Sudoku patterns of potentials for time around these timelines. Can't just come up with some wildly random collection of events. That is a non sequitur. So non sequitur means it doesn't follow, or like that does not compute. So if you're like going along and doing this, and then all of a sudden you're doing this over here and there's no connection of events that make it possible, that's a non sequitur. So like you're living your life and you're working here and you're a chef. And then all of a sudden you're living your life and you're over here and you're a pirate on the high seas. How does that happen? How does that happen? So it's like you have to have the narrative connection of events to bring you from one reality structure to another reality structure. Can't just have randomness. And also with Flying Rainbow Lasagna, we create new connections, new integument, and new combinations, but these are non-random combinations. So if you're not meant to be a pirate on the high seas, you're not going to write that with your pencilness of craziness. You're not supposed to just write more and more outlandish fantasies and things that take you further and further from your true self. The essence of this shape is It is a refinery that is meant to be continually bringing you closer and closer to your true self. So we'll just go with the analogy, but if your true self is genuinely closer to a pirate on the high seas than working as a head chef, then that is what you should do. Like, this is you, like, I'm working as a head chef. I hate my life. I really wish I could be a pirate on the high seas, yarg matey. But I don't think that mostly that is your optimum life. I'm just joking with these ridiculous analogies. So please excuse me my lightheartedness. But there is a non-arbitrary sense to what is your optimum timeline. Same thing with your physical biology. When we work to flying rainbow lasagna, our body and our metabolism and our soul into optimum form, none of it is random. None of it. So I make it very, very clear. Flying rainbow lasagna does allow for a facilitate new genetic combinations, but that is not to be able to make you have like 12 eyeballs or to have purple eyeballs or to do things that are grotesque or just profoundly distorted. It's not the effort, and the effort is freedom, and freedom does not necessarily mean grotesque distortion of your innate aspect of self. So wait, I want to do lots of stuff with pictures, but before I get into pictures, let me check out what's going on over here in the wonderful comments. Okay, so hold on, we'll get to pictures. So first of all, Lan is here in class. Great to see you. Thank you for being here. It says, how do you avoid the restricting dogmatism in achieving the perfect timeline without being a super perfectionist? Girl, you are really relating. Okay, so I'm such a perfectionist in everything that I do. I don't want to play a wrong note. I only want to play the right notes. When I do my paintings, I measure everything perfectly. And I'm like holding my hand like this. I'm trying to paint perfectly. Wait, pretend I'm painting. I'm like, da-da-da. And sometimes it happens like the doorbell rings or I make a mistake or whatever. The paint drips and something is wrong. So you have to, in giving support to fellow perfectionists, because the message to others is different. But to those who are trying to be perfect, you must give yourself the freedom to have mistakes and then fix mistakes, because otherwise it's paralyzing. So you must know that if your paint drips off of your paintbrush, you can get a rag and you can wipe it up. In your life, if you say or do the wrong thing or make a wrong choice that you regret, you can return to that choice point and you can restore it, meaning backtrack, go back to that V in the woods, make a different choice in going forward. And you are always open to the new choice. You're never beholden to sticking with the previous choice. Be like, well, I made that horrible choice to make a left turn all the way back there. I need to stick with that. So flexibility, what we do is recognize a mistake, take responsibility for the origin of the mistake, and then make a new choice, make a new choice point. So I do that with flying rainbow lasagna all the time. When I dance, of course, I want to make it perfect. I want my life and my body and everything that I'm experiencing to be perfect. If I dance and then I look at the world and I'm like, this thing over here is clearly not optimum. I'm like, how do I dance and make that better? So look at your life and your efforts and your body as a work in progress. And some things are continually being improved, like they have more layers of paint to modify them. And some things are obvious mistakes that you're in the process of cleaning up. Like you're going to get a turpentine rag, wipe them out, or I have a razor blade. I scrape off that mistake and scrape it away. And please know that as a perfectionist, you are continually perfecting your reality and you are continually creating for yourself the tools to perfect reality. And for anybody who took Path of Light class, the loops and the emergence of time narratives that the photon creates is that self-expression. It is the self-exploration of a music or an artist trying to be perfect, playing some wrong notes, and then trying it better the next time. And then Lan goes on to say, how does one remove their chakras? Is it even possible or just imaginary? I am very skeptical, I will tell you, because some people are practitioners that I think very dubiously would charge someone else for this form of chakra amputation. And I don't know if it's even possible or how you would do it if you tried to do something like that. So very, very ill-advised. And I would just say, like, I wouldn't trust someone who offered you like sign up here for your chakra amputation. Like this sounds terrible, but also if I know the class isn't even at the level where I should be devolving into silliness, but like if you watched any of those movies or did the it's called Golden Compass from Philip Pullman. I think it's worthy science fiction stuff. In there, they have this horrible thing where people are sometimes amputated from an aspect of their soul using a type of electrostatic technology like a gamma knife that like cuts a part of their ephemeral energy off from themselves. And when that happens after that, they become like lobotomized idiots who then go around amputating other people. And that's just a horrible fictional allegory for what would happen if people actually could do this. If you could actually electrostatically remove someone else's chakra system, you would have like meat human, like a human who is just a sack of meat with no soul. And they would be very easy to be enslaved. And also they would probably be like some kind of a postulant creature. Because like when you don't have these organizational energy forms within you, you don't have life for very long. Please know that these exist in life and in time because they're the optimum form to contain life. This is definitely like evolutionary stuff, but not just facile evolutionary biology. So look, every single one-celled organism has a chakra system. I think I'm going to go into some pictures and I'll get to more questions later. Every single one-celled organism has a chakra system. And I want to show you pictures. Wait, first let me do this for privacy. And then move this, that way you can see everything effectively. And then hopefully I can scroll. It's good, I can scroll. So imagine here, so here what you see is, this is the anthropomorphic form or the human form, because you see one face, two arms, two legs. So you as human, read that as human and as self. And then this is the abstract energy form, the part of you that is made only out of energy, time, and pure numbers and correct math. Even a one-celled organism has this complex mathematical structure around it. It is because in order for a one-celled organism, like a lactobacillus bacteria, to exist, it needs to also have all 7 chakras. So although the chakras are individuations that do connect to different organs within your much more complex multicellular system, every single one of your cells in your multicellular system has a chakra system, and every single one of your cells must have its own journey of connecting with the pathway of least likelihood and not doing a gutter ball. Like every single cell in your body has to make good choices about what it's doing with its life. I always want to joke, like, what are you doing with your life? Like, some kind of a judgmental parent, but it's judgmental grandma always. Tell judgmental grandma, I'm doing good things with my life. Like, look, like if I'm a lactobacillus, like, look, I'm eating milk. I'm doing the right things with my life. I'm digesting proteins. But how about in your body? Every single cell has to make the right choice. Like your mitochondria have to make good choices about how they use glucose. And your red blood cells have to make good choices about how they get the oxygen and where they bring it. So, like a red blood cell gets oxygen in your heart, and then it has options. Is it going to circulate like to your liver, to your big toe? Where is it going to bring that oxygen? Really think about that. Anytime you've got 5 minutes for deep thought, just think about that. Like, wow, every single one of my trillions of cells is making all of these amazing inner choices that add up to my overall metabolism. And if your cells make good choices, you continue to exist. And if your cells make bad choices, like if your red blood cells decide to go on strike and no longer carry oxygen around your body, what happens, class? You die. Correct, class. That is correct. You die without oxygen flowing effectively around your body. So please take this as, hold on a moment, as an allegory for, hold on, it's going back to my face. No? You can press a button. Good, because I want to show everyone cheeky. An allegory for the larger time field. Because if you are a good red blood cell, you are circulating back to the heart. You come out into physical reality and you circulate back to the heart. And if you are not a good red blood cell, you get stuck somewhere on the membrane of death, and you do not transport your wonderful oxygen in order to sustain the rest of the larger time animal. Hello, everybody. Let's take a brief break from our serious mental discussions to hug a dog. Thank you for letting us be lighthearted. Fantastic. In fact, you know what, everyone? Let's take a brief 5-minute break. I have bribes defrosted and ready for Cheeky. She's gonna have a nice little snack, and then I'm gonna take her OUT. So let me turn off the little camera for a moment. All right, Cheeky. Okay, good job. Everybody loves you, Cheeky. We all love you. Thank you for allowing me to take a moment over here. You can tell it's very hot out. It's like summertime here. It's so hot. Okay, so let me press pause. That's what I'm trying to do a thing over here. Thank you. Thank you so much for that brief cheeky break. Let's go back to where we've got some questions over here. Okay. Another question from Lan says, is death on this human planet a trap to return to being a human again for the powers at be to use us for loosh? Totally. So thank you for articulating that agenda. It gives me an opportunity to talk more about the hijacking of the system or the non-pristine nature of what you find yourselves within. Although it is surely very ill-advised to consider the chakras to be something that is disposable as opposed to something that is a treasure, please know that because this world has been so uncomfortable and erroneous and unjust, that I can comprehend why people would simply want to exit through what they consider to be the exit sign, which is death. But death is not the exit from this plane of existence. It has become a very unkind recycling system that does exactly what Lan is asking about. So I know that there's all questions people are going to come up with about like incarnation, reincarnation, karma, and I would encourage you to release all of the stories that were told to you from various different religions or philosophies, because although it is accurate that you are living in many incarnations, I would say it is accurate to say humans are living a multi-incarnational existence, parallel incarnations, but not a linear reincarnational system that functions on a behavioral control, reward, and punishment system as it is promoted in certain religious ideas, philosophical ideas, and social structures, especially in Asia, which is called the caste system. So this is why, I'm an equal opportunity offender. I offend the Christians. I offend the Jews. And today I will offend the Buddhists and Hindus of Asia and the caste system, because the concept of karma as is presented there is inherently erroneous and has upheld in unfair expectation that if you are born into a negative or like non-adequate, non-optimum life situation, that somehow that is your punishment for what you have done in a previous linear existence, and that is not accurate. So what is actually accurate is you have many lives at once. And as I've been talking to you about my time diagram, I always simplify it by only using the lower quadrant. This lower quadrant represents your whole entire life, from birth at this level here to death at these levels and ascension right here. But very few students ask me, like, Aurora, like, what about this one? What about this time vortex over here? Or this one? Or this one? Who is that? And what is happening there? The answer is those are your parallel existences. And this is a holistic structure that is unified. So there's not a way for you to be, let's say this is your tendril of awareness, at an angle here. I'm going to die. I'm going to membrane of death. But in this one, to be perfectly aligned like this. If you're going to die in this life, pointing over here, similarly, you're at an angle over here. Similarly, you're at an angle over here. Similarly, you're at an angle over here. And what you're really doing through this refinery of consciousness is going from what is a canted angle, like here you are at this angle with your whole entire chakra system, to being more and more in alignment with divinity. And that happens through all of your lives at once. So very, very erroneous for people to think that first you're born as like a dung beetle, and then you evolve to a fluffy kitten, and then you become a beautiful human, and then you're a human untouchable, and then you do better things in your life, and then you become a Brahmin, and then eventually you become a guru, and then eventually you don't get born as a human anymore. None of that is correct. That is not what is actually going on. And you can see that that brings up so much erroneous hubris because people who are human are like, oh, I've done incarnation a lot more than you dung beetle, you. Much further along in my ascension pathway. In fact, this is me like, I'm doing my ascension manicure, like, my ascension manicure. I'm like much, much, much more ascended than you silly microbe, or you silly tadpole, or you silly mushroom, or you silly whatever you are. In fact, I'm allowed to eat all of you. I'm more ascended than you. I'm allowed to eat all of you. And none of that is correct. So there are real problems with the innate levels of hubristic and anthropocentric human hierarchy and how people look at that. But you also comprehend this restoration many, many times into life, not for the purposes of soul evolution, but for the purposes of diminishment and misery, which is loosh and disempowerment. So none of this was meant to be a continued embeddedness in time so that you could be exploited or harmed. And I have said this in class many times. I'm going to keep on using this analogy, especially for new students. The journey into materiality was meant to be an amazing opportunity for your consciousness or for your soul, not an imprisonment. So let us imagine now that you are an unformed soul, not in a body yet. And I'm giving you a brochure about what it is to be alive. And as you read the brochure, you're like, this sounds amazing. You're going to get a body. You're going to be able to have all of these cells working together. You're going to have the experience of five senses. You're going to be able to feel what it feels like to be in time. You're going to have your own individuated thought structure. And you're still going to be connected to a community of plants and animals. And you're going to be connected to God at the same time. You're like, this cruise sounds amazing. Sign me up. So you signed up as a soul, right? And you came here, and what happened? You got on the cruise ship. The cruise ship was called the Titanic, and it sank horribly. You're like, I heard there would be waffles and nice, cool things here. And instead, you are crashed to the bottom of the ocean, the bottom of the levels of consciousness. You're supposed to come here and live your whole entire life in perfect alignment, perfect alignment, perfect alignment. And instead, what happens is people come here now in the antithesis of perfect alignment, in perfect disalignment, and have to effort through many cycles of refinement to try to be in alignment. And that's not ideal, not the way it was supposed to be, and is very, very inherently unfair. That system of trying to be more and more aligned as you go through this refinery process has been going on for millennia, right? It predates the flying rainbow lasagna. I existed as Aurora even while that unfairness was happening. But the particular unfairness within this body and my effort to vibrate into this body and my creation of the flying rainbow lasagna portal, which is actually a higher dimensional expression of this shape, means that you can rearrange the DNA and the timelines so that you are now back to having that optimum experience on the cruise vessel where there are waffles, as opposed to crashed to the bottom of consciousness. And what's waffles? The ability to manifest stuff out of your mind. The ability to be free as an artist in reality, the ability to be beyond materiality. And when I say that, you're like, that sounds amazing. And also, if I had that ability, I surely would not waste my time selling my time for energy for my job. I would not be at my job. That I can make anything happen. I would not be at my job unless you love your job. And then you're at your job for the right reasons. So my job is being an artist or a musician. And I would be that even if I have total freedom because I like doing that. But if you work at the coal mine or some horrible thing you don't like, then of course you don't want to be doing it because you're doing what Jose Arguelles told you not to do, which is selling your time for money. And back to him, just to close that circle because it's still open in my brain. He said, time is art. Time is art. And this is accurate. This description and depiction of time is a masterpiece. When I do these types, so this is from my painting over here called Sol's Majestic, my fabric that I do. But when I do these paintings, this fabric, what I'm really trying to artistically express to you, why I emphasize it, why it is important, why is this in a painting, why is this on a pedestal, is because it's breathtakingly beautiful. It's so perfect. It really is a masterpiece. When you yourself are fully embedded within time and you're fine-tuned and making the right choices and following the right patterns, it's breathtakingly beautiful. You, as an organism, the events of your life, your thought structures, and every single life that you touch upon is beautiful. The world that you're coming from right now does not express that perfect level of beauty. The world that you're coming from right now is the destruction, very minimal beauty, a lot of crap, a lot of bad stuff at the bottom of the ocean where everything got crushed and destroyed under huge levels of pressure. And so what Flying Rainbow Lasagna is an effort to be able to restore the capability for you to write beautiful stories for yourself, because you wouldn't write a story where you're crushed at the bottom of the ocean, or where you're being farmed for louche, or where you are diminished in your community in any way. You would write stories for yourself that are about your exaltedness, your empowered nature, and how you're able to do and receive all the things that are important for you to do and to receive. So Flying Rainbow Lasagna, and we will talk about this throughout the whole entire semester, not just today. It's too much to just talk about in one day, but this is the integument to restore to you the capacity to write your own stories, to the capacity to write your own much more positive narratives. And that is what it's like to be on the beautiful cruise ship that was talked about in the brochure. Okay, so thank you for that. And we'll talk about this more. Joni says, about love, there is no access to singularity, ? And asks more, with this assumption, are races without mammalian construct able to reach singularity? Great question. When I talk about the love that is required to connect with singularity, it is not a mammalian love. So mammalian love here in the levels below the navel, that is for mammals. And that's love. I love you. Hearts come out of my eyes. Ka-chunka chunka. I want to marry you. When you were a child and you were in school, they give you an ice cream. You're like, this ice cream is so tasty. I love it. To your friends who want to marry it, right? Like, this is not that type of love. This is a different type of love that is the love of being embedded fully in time. Any organism, be it an animal, be it a mammal, be it an insect, has the capacity to be fully embedded in time. So let's use that as an example. There are beautiful insects like spiders and butterflies and ants. Those are beautiful insects. They are not like the gross insects. And they have a totally different emotional repertoire than your human and mammalian emotional repertoire. And those beautiful organisms that are in the insect world do achieve unconditional love. They're mammalian, they don't have mammalian emotions. So they don't have like anger, hatred, motivations about community, all those types of things. They're opaque, like you can't comprehend what they feel. They don't feel the same things as you, but they absolutely can get to singularity and experience their version of ascension. It means that they are feeling unconditional love. So every organism can feel unconditional love. An ant or like a butterfly or a bee, and also a mineral. Here's a giant crystal. This is a mineral, and it can achieve a level of consciousness and emotion that is called unconditional love. Even though this is not a cellular organism, this is not in any way like you are or analog to you as an animal, it does still have the capacity to, it is a mineral consciousness, and it attains unconditional love. It also too. So I love that you are asking these questions, but the real answer in all of this, as I expand to the ultimate answer, is that all of the life that is correct life, not all life, but all correct life, does ascend or go back to the singularity or get to ultimate light speed. And oh my goodness, I wanted to be able to bring that to a better conclusion. I have something else important to be able to say about that. There are blades of grass in heaven. So I wanted to do this brief rant because in the anthropomorphic vision of what an afterlife is, I call it Christian heaven, but of course, many different philosophies and religions have a version of what afterlife is, it's always for you calibrated towards what an ideal version of heaven is like for a human. So I joke about this, the Christian heaven that is presented as an amorphous world of clouds, like you're in clouds and there's white clouds around you and you're not walking on the surface of the earth and there is not grass. You're just floating in puffy clouds and maybe like strumming a harp or something like that, right? And I know that that is like cultural. I know it's reductionist. I know it's part of only a particular religion, but I'm going to talk about this because every blade of grass has a chakra system and has the potential to reach ascension. And there is grass in heaven or in the divine exalted paradise, because I also don't want you to think that you have to die in order to go there. But let us say in the ultimate restoration, in the ultimate reconnection with divinity, and the place or wherever you are when you experience that, is there grass there? And the answer is yes. There's most definitely grass there, and grass is an amazing organism, and I want to say a magical substance, and you want to be able to walk on the grass. Like your toes and your feet touching the grass is part of divine architecture. And the concept of being removed from that and somehow elevated, but not touching the grass and not connecting to nature is a very, very strange and unbalanced thing. Pardon me, I have a very, very chapped lips. And some of that is from glyphosate that they're spraying in the sky up there. So please know if you experience it in your world, you're not alone. But the perfection of being in the world and what we're able to experience, trees will be in a divine heaven. Birds will be in a divine heaven. Butterflies will be in a divine heaven. So I would like for you to recalibrate, and we could say, I'm talking about something different, or recalibrate your idea of what is heaven, because a lot of it has been grooming to take away your bodies from you. So I want you to know in this generation, you don't have to die in order to transcend or ascend or go beyond materiality or be the greatest version of who you can be. But that even if you did die, but I don't want you to think about dying, but there are many, many worthy organisms who would be with you in an ideal post-mortem paradise. And that includes all of these very worthy creatures around us. Because and I'm going to get more to like the specifics of your question too. I consider the Bible to be very, very negative mental architecture because it does give humans the sense of being elevated above other plants and animals in nature. And then from that, there's been this outgrowth of Christian paradise being a non-natural place where you're just apart from your five senses. And I think that that is grooming for out-of-body experiences, getting out of your body so that something else can inhabit it, not so that you will be free of the flesh. And I don't consider the flesh to be an inherent imprisonment, as the Gnostic Essenes often define it in that way, and some other philosophical traditions define being alive as being inherently flawed. And that gets back to the sense of not being a full spectrum human, but only being a partial human, where they say to err is human. Definition of what it is to be human is to be flawed. Your physicality with some very, very screwed up mammalian emotions and then a very flawed mind on top of there. And that's all true. If that's all that you are, that is very truthful, flawed person, but that's not who and what you are. So, okay, I didn't finish all of the ladder going all the way up because I left you at this flawed human level and then I just brought you to the level of love. Let's go all the way up the ladder, please, because this is a bit uncomfortable down here. It's walking up the chakra ladder. So we got to the level of unconditional love, which is the love tone that all these organisms can produce. Now let's go higher or into a different vibratory frequency rate, and I'll teach you about that too, into the throat, which is light blue or kind of an aquamarine turquoise. And at this level of the higher faculties, what you're talking about is authenticity. So this is communication. And this is the ability to speak, but it is also everything that emanates outward from your collarbones. And that includes your arms and your hands and your gesturing. So anything that you are going to do with your hands, like things that you are doing, writing is a form of communication and authenticity. Gesturing, this is me when I'm the Italian grandma, your life's going down the toilet. Gesturing In dancing is also part of that. And of course, playing the piano or music is also part of that. Communication puts something that was inside of you outside of you. And it also brings something that was outside of you into you. So this is an incredibly important part of your body in terms of being able to eject energy or send information out and also receive energy and have information come back in. Upward from there, you have dark blue. So that was just that lighter turquoise. And then here you have the darker blue, which is deep indigo. And that is synonymous with and related to your pineal gland, but they're not interchangeable. So your gland is the physical structure in reality, but your insight is the tendril of attention and the focus of your mind. So having the gland is one thing. And of course, you also have you have glands here, you have glands here, you have glands here, you got glands all over. You got glands all over your body. And they are all relating to different colors and different harmonics. And we'll do a whole lesson and a whole teaching about that. But this area of your body is so important. And I talk about it so much in class because that's your insight. And it is where your true mind resides. Oops, I'm sorry. I went to step on my treadmill and it had automatically stopped. And that's why I felt so silly. But I have to restart. It won't let me start. I got to change batteries. So let's change batteries on the fly. But let's talk about your insight here. And I have to do a little thing so I don't break a nail either. Your insight is your true mind. It's the mind that you came here with. It is the mind of Christ. It is, and I'm just throwing that one out there casually, like, whoop, blah, 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 tell me about that. Christ is a higher dimensional superhero, a larger consciousness collective, very, very hugely benevolent, positive, not just one person, like as you know, Jesus Christ, but really a whole cognitive collective. Sorry, I'm off camera there. Similar to Aurora, the cognitive collective, but not interchangeable with, but I'm connected to Christ. Sorry, I have to look at this and make sure I'm putting my batteries in correctly. I'm part of Christ, but I'm not synonymous with or exactly the same as Christ. Sorry, I have to do these things correctly. All right. And apologies, I was just very, very distracted, so I have to really focus on making sure I'm saying the right things. Thank you. Okay, so now focus, 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 and also get to some imagery here, because this is important stuff. Show you pictures. 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 Okay. Scrolling. So this is picture that I did that was accurate on some levels, but not accurate on other levels. And I do all of these so that way I can show you different levels of accuracy. Boy, those words did not work at all. All of these paintings have been my effort, very sincerely, to be accurate in what I'm portraying. I'm an artist, but I paint things that are truthful, not just making pretty colors. And so this represents some aspects of truth, but other things are not emphasized. And you can see I have one apple core shape, not 4 vortexes, 2 vortexes. So this is really not a full chakra. It's half of a chakra. And it is meant to be able to show to you the orientation where you have the red chakra and the violet chakra oriented at 90-degree complementary angles to all of the rest of the chakras. Here you have orange, yellow, green, blue, and indigo. So if we talk about Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, chakra. The violet and red are, let's call them oriented up, down arbitrarily. And the OIGB, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, are all oriented horizontally, arbitrarily. Because, of course, there's no up and down in hyperspace. Okay, let's show you next image. And if you guys ever want to look more deeply at these imagery, you can find it on my website, which is flyingrainbowlasagna.com, and go to the art area, and there's a beautiful slideshow where you can see lots of close-ups. So this one is called Children of True Humanity. And I hope you can see that there's this whole giant, amazing, complex time field. And then within that, here I am showing you, there are individuated figures. And here's an anthropomorphic form with the chakras around them. And you can even see these silver dots representing like energy flowing. And you can see how that person and their energy field integrates with the rest of time. Integrates with the rest of time and also integrates with other people because, like, look at this area right here. here's this guy, and his energy field touches on the top of this guy's energy field. That's a girl. So they have connections. This person's energy field touches directly on this person's energy field. They connect. A big, huge part of what I teach, even though you can't see it, when I just hold up one chakra sculpture like this, you can see it in the paintings though, is that your chakras are part of a network. They're part of a larger planetary chakra system, and they do not exist in a contextless void. So all of these, your lives interpenetrate and intertwine with other versions of yourself, but your lives also intertwine with other people. These are all other people that live in your neighborhood or on your planet, and your chakra system intertwines with them. And I need to hydrate, but please know this is why it's so poignantly painful when we see things that are going wrong in community. Like, let's say if someone is doing something very wrong with their orange chakra, like they're doing sexual exploitation, because orange is the level of sexuality. So if someone is violating others or exploiting others or buying and selling non-consensual sexual energy, you're like, well, that's their life. That's their business, blah, blah, blah. But when you start to look at this map and this drawing, you're like, well, wait a minute. This person's orange chakra over here totally connects to this person's orange chakra over here. So if this person's orange chakra is being sexually exploited here, it has an impact on this person. It's not just something that's happening as a mere abstraction, whatever, in a massage parlor in Thailand. Then it becomes something that has a direct impact on you and on your body and on the stability of your own cognitive architecture. Hold on a moment. So that's a good close up. And also in these pictures, you can see this little feature above the head. That's your violet chakra. I didn't talk enough about that. Let's talk about this. So I got all the way up to your indigo chakra, which is your mind of Christ and your true non-verbal consciousness. Non-verbal, no words. That's what you came here with as a real baby. And then your violet chakra, that technically, I'm pointing to the top of my head, but it really is at the center of your DNA. Your violet chakra is actually your divine connection, which is housed within your DNA. Your DNA is a very, very sacred tool or sacred part of your body, and it makes it possible for you to quote unquote plug into the higher energy levels of reality, the higher levels of intelligence, the more dynamic and forceful flowingness of light and information. You plug in through your violet chakra to get more ideas. When you do sun gazing, that's where you get ideas from. When you connect with the world of pure light, that is where you get ideas from. And when you eat food that is filled with light, eat it mindfully, that is also where you get ideas from. Let's scroll a little bit more. Good. This is a great painting. And this also shows very, very accurately how all of these individual human figures have time bodies that also connect through this architecture of time. And each one of these are individuals, but now you start to see they really act and are, here, you can see it better, connected in a giant network. And this is really what heaven looks like. This is really what heaven looks like. Not a floaty cloud place, and you're not wearing a long white nightgown. In fact, drop your hang-ups, everyone, because you don't wear clothes in heaven. All of these figures are not wearing clothes. This painting also has moderate inaccuracies because you can see that here we have like the bottom of the chakra system only comes to their calf, and it should come all the way down below their feet. But that's because I had to find a way to fit these things into the whole thing. So I had to do some artistic free license. Please know that I took some, I made some things not quite accurate, and I took some poetic license in order to portray something that is on the overall accurate. So please know I'm using a little bit of our artistic tools of the trade. This is a very accurate portrayal when we look at the head. So here, let's talk about higher faculties. Here is your heart, and your heart is creating the love tone, love tone. And then here is your throat, and your throat absolutely balances on top of your heart. And I don't know if you can see, but this little bubble that is blue comes right over here, and it balances right there on that part of the green chakra that is coming out of your heart. Now let's look over here. See this blue? That is your insights, your eye of mind, it's your inner Christ. And that blue bubble right there, the edge of your blue indigo chakra, it balances right on top of the lighter blue chakra. So your insight and your ability to comprehend the world beyond language balances upon this authenticity chakra here, which also balances upon your heart. And your heart is the gas that makes all of this go. And your heart is really a level of acceptance. When you look through your eye of insight over here, and we'll talk about how the violet guides you to look at different things, you have to have an enormous fortification of love to be able to accept what you see with your mind. Seeing with your pure insight is seeing with your deepest mind. And sometimes the things that you see are challenging. They are not easy. You must comprehend them, accept them, and process them emotionally. And when I say that, comprehension happens here where I'm wiggling my cursor. Acceptance happens here at the level of the heart. Processing emotionally happens here at the level of the pelvis. You get an insight by looking at the world and perceiving something. You have to accept it here through the central processing unit of your heart. And I'm not a transhumanist when I use that analogy. And then let that information flow here to your emotional centers where you feel about it. That is one energy pattern in the world. And I haven't spoken enough about violet. We're going to get there. But first, let's do an energy pathway in the opposite direction. So one energy pathway is an impulse comes from the higher dimension, the world of pure insight in Christ. And it flows through your body and it comes through these different energy centers. And then it comes into your intellectual, emotional awareness here, where you're like, oh, I think and feel stuff and I understand stuff as a human. All right. But then you also do stuff, which is to take your experience as a human, the stuff that you think and feel down here, and to bring it up your body, through your heart, through your ability to communicate, into your insight, and then into your highest connection to the divine. And you send your human experience back to the divinity that emanated you. So here is a direct, literal example of what we do. We do this with food. Let's say that the red thing that you are going to eat, the physical object you're going to eat, let's just say peanut butter and jelly sandwich. All right. We're not going to distress any vegans or vegetarians by using I usually say a hamburger. Everyone's like, oh, don't make me think about eating a hamburger. PB&J. Okay, good. So we have a sandwich that is in the red chakra level. You eat that sandwich. What happens? First of all, you have a sensory experience. You're feeling and sensing and tasting. You feel it come down into your tummy. The sandwich goes into your intestines, the level of orange, and your microbes and your neurotransmitters start to give you feelings about that sandwich. And then those feelings transmit and translate upward into your rational intellect. Literally, the glucose from your peanut butter and jelly goes to your brain. And you can think about stuff on an implanted cognitive level, on the level of your identity. You're like, my name is Mary, and I just ate a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and it was yummy. That's what your intellect says. Then you go upward through the clearinghouse of your heart, where you accept things. Go upward through here is where energy is either clothed with words or the words are removed. I often joke in this class about the flapping of my moving mouth parts and how hugely inefficient it is for me to have to say all of these words. I think maybe I sound a little bit diva and complaining a lot. But really, for real, I'm used to a world where it's telepathic and you just boom, just give it to you. And believe me, I send out telepathic email blasts all the time. I'm like, I hope you guys can hear me, blah, blah, blah. But no, mostly in this world, I have had to laboriously practice the flapping of my moving mouth parts, what Terence McKenna used to call small mouth sounds, in order to get things across to you. But please know that in the larger cosmic context of consciousness, we do not use words to communicate. That means we do not use words to talk to one another, or to talk to other organisms, or to talk to God or the world of pure light. So all of these invocations and prayers, chanting and reading from the Bible, I am really not in alignment with that at all. I find words to be inherently distortive, inherently obfuscatory of the original sentiment, and very, very difficult. Please forgive me throughout my entire existence here as Aurora, because using language feels to me like a foreign language. Like English technically is my native language. It isn't. I don't know how to call myself. Like English feels like a foreign language to me. It does not relate well to my brain architecture. Sometimes it is very, very hard for me to express myself and choose the right word. Partially that is because I am non-neurotypical, but also please comprehend, language is inherently distracting, taking your attention away from divinity, distorting, and diminishing of signal. So in order to send back the story of your peanut butter and jelly sandwich to divinity, you have to take the words away, because that is not how you talk to God. So you have to take the words away and send back the feeling. Be like, this is what peanut butter feels like. And you know what, something, guys? Peanut butter is awesome. If you're ever like, why did I read that stupid brochure? It gets stuck here on the Titanic. This really sucks. Be like, hey, but you know something? Peanut butter is awesome and you should eat it. And then you should send that signal to divinity, because divinity is what manifested the world, made it possible to have glucose, made it possible to grow peanuts, made it possible to have commerce, like all of these amazing architectures that are complexities that make it possible for you to eat that substance. And then you unclothe the experience with words and you just have the raw data. That information goes into your Christ chakra, goes into your indigo chakra up here. And then here's the key point. It goes into your violet chakra and you beam, beep, 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 that experience back to the sun. So I told you already, your violet chakra is your divine connection. On a baby, it's the fontanelle. Now I'm definitely getting silly in class because there's an old movie called Raising Arizona where there's famous lines like, mind his little fontanelle. It's a soft spot at the top of your head over here, and it relates to the historical allusion in human art to a halo, an angel's halo. So please know that the consideration of the pinnacle of human development for many thousands of years was to go to the heart, that you're angelic or a spiritual master if you get to the heart. But look at how far you have to go. So that's why I say this is base camp. And again, forgive me as I hydrate here, but your heart chakra is just base camp. You must be able to be loving to matriculate to the activities of the higher chakras, but the heart is not all that it is. The real highest level that you can go to is over here. And that is when you really connect through your DNA, which is a bridge of light, to the world of pure light. And you send back this abstract energy impulse. That is, this is what it is to be a human in the physical world eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, all right? So it is a two-way highway. Impulses come from a higher dimensional, less dense realm. And then impulses into you as a physicality structure. Impulses also come from you as a cellular physicality structure back up to the higher dimensional, less dense realms. Now, the problem is where I'm putting my cursor right now. This is the level of yellow. For thousands of years, the level of yellow has been a garbage dump, a terrible place where you can't get signals through very effectively. That is why the definition of what it was to be human was just some red, some orange, and some yellow, because all of those, everything, religious hangups happen at the level of yellow. False light and erroneous math and erroneous presumptions about the structure and the truth of the world happen at the level of yellow. Yellow is also where they gave you a verbal talking mind with no off button. And I have talked about this in class quite a lot. When you came here, you did not have a little voice in your mind. You didn't have a voice in your mind that constantly narrated reality and said, my name is Mary. Now I'm eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Now I'm playing with my toys. Now I'm running outside. You just did stuff. You just did stuff. You didn't have to say words in your mind. But at a certain point in your childhood, you started to think with the structured, verbalized thoughts. And that is what really broke your divine connection. So meditation and mindfulness is the activity and the spiritual muscle building that you have to do in order to restore moments of silence and true divine connection to your body. And that includes being in what humans call bliss or the flow state. Both of those words I take from your cultural lexicon. They're not really my words, but you can relate to them. It's when you're in the moment. So I try to structure my life to do all the things that keep me 100% in the moment. When I'm making my music, when I'm painting my paintings, when I'm sewing, I'm better at sewing. I still do not have a sewing machine. I'm scared. Actually, I'm scared of sewing machines. They take me out of the moment. I'm like, what is this stupid thing? How do I do this? Blah, blah, blah. But now I'm better at sewing where I'm like, oh, like I'm just in the moment, sewing. So being in the moment does have somewhat to do with mastery, like getting good at something. But because, like when I first started to play the piano, it was difficult and I labored to do it. It wasn't that easy. But now when I'm playing, I'm like, oh, I'm in the moment. I'm flowing. I don't have to think about stuff. Think about like when you're an athlete and you're just really good at what you do. You're a tennis player or a basketball player, and you just be like, kapow, like get that ball, like make that slam dunk. You just do it without having to think. Okay. So relate to those feeling states. Whatever is the activity that you do, that you just do without really having to think about it, that's what you should do for your life. That's time is art. That's how you're really supposed to be. So everybody's uniquely qualified. So I don't know what your thing is. If your thing is like making bread, you're like, I can knead dough all day long. I do this perfectly. It's like, that is your life. That's what you're supposed to be doing. And I will also report to you that so many of the modern contrivances take me out of that flow state. It is hard for me to do a lot of stuff here and stay in my blissful reality. So I did have to contact a bureaucracy this morning. I had to be on the phone prompt. Not just being on the phone, but when you're on the phone, it's like, if you want this, press 1. And if you want this, press 2. I'm like, no, you're taking me out of my flow state. No. And so I do that. But then afterwards, I have to get back into my flow state. I'm like, okay, now I need to do like this much music or this much this to restore myself. Very, very challenging. But those are the things that people consider normal here. But please know that almost 100% of the activities that are like connecting with the bureaucracy, filling out paperwork, those things are inherently difficult for the mind, and they're going to take you out of your flow state. Again, I used to think it was just because I was an interdimensional visitor or my neurology is non-neurotypical, but I now think that like I don't presume that these are fun, natural, or supportive activities for anybody's neurology, and that maybe others are more embedded or more indoctrinated to being able to compromise themselves. But that at a certain point, you will not compromise yourselves anymore. Like your news report is that your bureaucracies are presently being dismantled, and we will not have this anymore, because in order to accommodate the flow of light that is coming into your world right now, you're not going to be able to be like on the phone prompt, like waiting for the bank. You're like, well, the bank told me to press 3. Sorry, Ascension Energies. Like I'm busy holding on the phone. The bank told me to press 3 and I have to wait for an operator. You have to be like, drop the phone and ascend. You got it. Like you can't be busy working at your job or job activities when these energies flow through. You have to align with those energies, because time is art. So you're going to have to start prioritizing your inner connection to time and not outer social prompting. And that inner connection to time happens through the signaling that comes through your DNA, the signaling that comes from the world of pure light, the signaling that comes from highly structured water in your body. Why in the world am I always drinking so much water? Because highly structured water helps you to contain more light and be more aligned with perfect examples of reality. Let me move through a few more pictures here. Hold on. This is picture pages. Oh, this is a good one, because now you can really see that inner architecture. And here you can see how the alignment of the violet chakra is, we would call it up and down. And the orientation of the indigo chakra is side to side. And these are, I would say, an apparatus, or married, not married like people who love each other, but they are partners. Like your heart and your lungs work together. Your heart pumps the blood, but your lungs breathe the air. So both of these two things represent your higher faculties and your ability to really think divine thoughts. Your insight is like the projection, the movie projector, an old-fashioned movie projector that has film in it. Even in movie theaters, they don't have this anymore. But gather around, children, and let us all remember the old-fashioned movie theaters that had giant reels of film and then a machine in the middle, and the machine emitted light that would go through the imagery of the pictures and make things move on a screen. The movie projector is your indigo chakra. It is the projector of reality structures around you. You are receiving abstract information from raw data from the world, what scientists call uncollapsed waveforms or potentials. These chakras are potentials. And then, pardon me, out of those potentials, your insight, I don't want to say collapses, but it coalesces reality structures and projects them around you. So when you look at a plant, I'm looking at a plant right here next to my window. I am not looking at a plant. I'm looking at a potential of reality structures and a bunch of potential energy that could be a plant, does the raw uncollapsed waveforms, and then my insight, my Christ chakra, my inner movie projector is coalescing those potentials and bringing it into a interpretation on a human anthropomorphic level that I can understand things because I am here in a human body. So I'm like, I had to learn how to calibrate my senses and how to comprehend what I'm seeing. So now when I look at that green thing, I'm like, I know what that thing is. I'm going to interpret it correctly. That's a plant. All right. I had to do that in chronological adulthood. You guys did that when you were a tiny infant. And what did it look like for me? So also like I had very bad eyesight when I first came here because I'm dealing with brain injury, like as a result of walking in and everything like that. So initially things were very blurry to me. That was just like what it was like when you were a baby. Babies in their first year or so are very unformed. Like the world is just a cloud. You just kind of see shapes and colors and weird stuff. You don't know how to interpret what you are seeing yet. But then as you master your neurology and you are less unformed and you are more, formful, then you start to comprehend and look at a moving shape and you're like, that's my mommy. You're like, that's a person, or that's my stuffed animal. That's my toy, or that's my baba. Like that's my, bottle to drink from. Okay. So I came here with very, very fuzzy eyesight. And I didn't comprehend and see and know a lot of the world around me. But then eventually, like after, so literally I came here in 2001 and I didn't get corrective lenses until 2003 or 2004. So, clearly I lived here for several years without really being able to see the world. But then when I got corrective lenses, and now I wear contact lenses to see every day, then I started to really comprehend what I was seeing. And I was like, oh, when I see that, that is what I'm dealing with. And then when I see that, that is what I'm dealing with. And initially, this is kind of Aurora stories. I didn't comprehend and see people's facial expressions. If someone was across the street from me, if I don't have corrective lenses, like I can just see there's a shape there. I don't know who they are or what they're doing, but there is something there. I learned after I got clearer eyesight, I was like, oh, I've been missing out on a lot because these people's faces are like doing stuff. And I had to learn what that means. I still have a lot of challenges, but I think I've gotten better at being able to interpret what people's facial expressions mean and what different patterns mean. But so please know I've had to labor to comprehend the world around me. You might relate because whenever I say to people in my experience, I'm like, you humans, you don't make sense to me. And I don't really understand a lot of what I'm seeing here. And then people are usually like, don't worry, Aurora, like we're natives to this world and we don't understand each other either. And then I feel a lot better because, there's a lot of random and arbitrary things. Let's talk about the relationship of the violet chakra and the indigo chakra. I'm going to emphasize this on down the line in the semester. So we'll go over this fast right now and drop a seed, but the seed will really bloom. I think it's lesson 8 or 9, talking about non-religious Christ consciousness. Okay, so there's Christianity, and I have a lesson all about that, but then there's also non-religious Christ consciousness. And Christ consciousness is who and what you are. Like I'm speaking to you, the good people of my class. And the violet chakra is even more evolved than the Christ chakra, which is religiously difficult for many people because your theology tells you that Christ is the ruler of the world and that he is in charge of everything. But I am telling you that there is a level of cognitive awareness and divine connection that is even more evolved than Christ. And that is the level of the violet chakra. And you contain that. So this is big, big, big stuff. I'm not disrespecting Christ, who is, I want to say, my family. I love Christ and I'm very respectful of Christ. But Christ is not the ultimate level of evolution of your consciousness. In fact, when you get your energy in your evolution of your chakras to the level of your forehead and deep indigo and the Christ chakra, it's not the end of your journey and is the most perilous moment in your journey. Humanity has been at that moment since the year zero of your Christian calendar, which is 2,000 years ago, or whatever, 26 years ago. The year zero is when, the historical Jesus was here. You started a new calendar. You started a new way of counting time. It's been roughly 2,000 years as humanity has been evolving from the level of reality that is the Christ chakra to the level of reality that is the violet chakra. That whole journey from your forehead all the way up to the top of your head, from here to here, 2,000 years. Why does that little tiny journey take 2,000 years? It is the hardest thing you're ever going to have to do. You're going through some of the worst, sorry for saying it, worst bullshit that you will ever have to go through as a soul. And it takes an enormous amount of effort and willpower to break free from the propaganda considerations of what Christ is or what is at this level of chakra here to then be able to attain this, because many people who are highly indoctrinated would be thinking like, who are you to think that you are more than Christ the King? How are you going to be more spiritually evolved than like the ultimate leader of everything? How are you more than this? And how are you blah, 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 who do you think you are? And it takes a lot to break through that and to be like, well, it's Roy G. Biv, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo. And then where's the V? Where's the V? If you don't have that V, you didn't go all the way up there. So then you know that without the violet conclusion, the journey of the evolution of consciousness is not complete. So it is very, very perilous. At the level of anthropomorphic interpretation, people can be really wrong. And the level of Christ insight is the level of human interpretation of reality. Remember, I'm telling you at the beginning of this class today, this is all math. Red sculpture, all math. But when you are looking at the world through your human lens, you're not looking at math. You're looking at human behavior. And human behavior is not only erratic or unpredictable, the conclusions that are drawn at the level of anthropomorphic comprehension are often erroneous. Making up stories and drawing the wrong conclusions. This is really, really crucial. I make fun a lot of the soft sciences. It's what in your world, that's like sociology, psychology, those types of things, even game theory, which is a partially human influenced concept of what is happening in the digital realm of pure numbers. None of it's apt. None of it is reproducible. None of it is real, because the idea of math and science is that it is reproducible and something that you can measure and something that is true in all cases. But in the world of psychology or sociology, you don't have something that is true in all cases because everybody is different. And what you do to one human, how they react is not universal. People are not cookie cutters. People are not universal. So the things that are happening at the anthropomorphic level of interpretation are often wildly flawed. And that includes the concept of good and evil and what's happening in the afterlife. So a lot of the stuff that people have received through insight that is not yet connected to the violet is flawed, and you got to be able to release those flawed stories. So when you're having a dream and you're in a dream and you see people and you're in a box, like a house that's shaped like a box, you're not in the ultimate level of reality. But if you're in a dream or a vision or an inner experience of pure insight where you're surrounded by colors and weird stuff is happening and you're beyond your level of interpretation, then you're in the real level of reality. And some of you are like, oh, you mean like how you just described being an infant consciousness and you don't know what's going on? Yes. And some of you thought, oh, you mean like that time that I was tripping on mushrooms or LSD and I saw a bunch of shapes and I didn't know what's going on? And yes. So because I'm telepathic, I'm hearing your minds. I'm like, yes and yes. So good. Those psychedelics, I'm not a huge proponent of them, especially right now because the world is so garbage and it opens you up to a lot. But in the best sense, when people take psychedelics, It does bring them back to their infantile consciousness by breaking through their anthropomorphic interpretation filter, and it makes you look at the world with the eyes of a child. And that is wonderful, because then hopefully you can be set free from your preconceptions and cultural projections and have a clearer view of the world. But the lower astral and also transhumanist incursions have made it very, very undesirable, not well recommended, to be going in the ocean of consciousness using psychedelics right now. Okay. But what you do want to do is break free from your anthropomorphic filter to be able to perceive true reality, which is an abstraction. So when you look at the world of truth from your violet chakra perspective, you look at the world as an abstraction. And now I'm trying to scroll over here. I want to find a good picture. Here's a good picture that is a pure abstraction. There is no human anthropomorphic information in this picture. This is pure abstraction. All right. And so a lot of my artwork is this, just what you would call geometry, but it's not geometry, because geometry is about the shape of Earth. But color, line, shape, form, movement, texture, and of course, musical tone. This is what this class is all about. Level 1, lesson 1. It's the shape of everything. It's a language. It's a language that is portraying truth in the cosmic infrastructure. I will also tell you that I, Aurora, did not invent this language. Unless I call myself God and like kind of go to the highest level of my personality or my self-identity, I could say I invented this as God, like the overarching everythingness. But if I identify myself as Aurora, not only this physical person, but the cosmic impulse on the stellar network, I did not invent the alphabet. This is like words. This is like the alphabet here. But what I did do was I mastered this system that was already in existence, and I used these words to tell truth, which is what the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. The Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a poetry or a truthful expression in the world of color, line, shape, form, movement, texture, and tone. And the artwork that I give to you here is my best translation of these abstract truths, being able to do it with the tools that are around me here. So when I first came here as Aurora, I didn't know what is the best type of paint. Like I didn't even really know you had to frame things and do things in a certain way. So again, you can check out my Messages to Humanity. It's a set of cards that I made within the past 5 years to be able to share these images. But what I initially started doing was just doing all of these drawings in my sketchbook. And if you can't, because I don't publish those cards anymore, but if you don't have them, you can find it on my YouTube. And you can look at all the images on a screen to be able to know how I was communicating. But yeah, before I was comfortable communicating with the flapping of my moving mouth parts, I communicated very many sketches, and I tried to show them to people, but people did not really comprehend it. But there's a lot of information in there. And I think that those were the most elevated, most closely enlightened moments of my life when I first came here, before I was acculturated, before I even knew like you had to put food in here and whatever, pay your Geico bill. I didn't know about any of those things. And clearly I was not articulate. Like now I'm much better with the flapping of the moving mouth parts. But back then, all that I did was draw pictures. And so you can check out those pictures. And I think that there's an enormous amount of telepathic information embedded in there, even though some of them might seem like a simple sketch or a simple line drawing. Please know that I was sharing that information from the most abstract sense of myself. And it's still all valid, good stuff. It's not like any of that stuff has gone out of style. But then I had to learn, like, you can't just make like a little, drawing on tissue paper and show it to someone. Like, they're not going to get it. So I learned, and I also learned that color is really important. Even in the original Message to Humanity series, you can see I started to get watercolors and to color coordinate the things that I'm doing, because the colors are a big part of this syntax of the language of the higher dimensions in the abstract world. So this is called Merkaba Chakra 1. I hope that you can see that there is both the toroidal structure, where here I have the outer vortex and I'm tracing with my cursor into the center here. So here's singularity, but then you can also see this 6-spoked shape. that relates to the flower of life. It relates to that little orange sculpture that I held up at the beginning of class. We're going to do a whole thing about this later in the semester about the connection between your Merkaba and your chakras and how these two different levels of reality, one is a grid based on 6 and one is a grid based on 8, and how these two numbers connect you together in time. Let me just scroll and show you a few more cool images. So here's an awesome close-up of the center of that. And you can see all the different colors of the chakras and how they are arranged and nested. We haven't even talked about frequency and wavelength today. If it's too much, I might save it for class. We can do it next week. So this one is Merkaba Chakra 2 because you have one that is oriented vertically and one that is oriented horizontally. So as I get to the center of this Tootsie Roll, Tootsie Pop, just make it bigger so you can see it's that much more complex because I have one that's up and one that's to the side. So then you don't have just 6 in the middle, you have 12 in the middle. So it makes it harder to see everything. So sometimes I simplify things in my paintings because I'm like, if I put everything in there, like these people are going to go crazy because they can't even see like what the heck is going on. So sometimes I do a simplified version, then I do the more complex versions that your brain can even, I would say get along with it. Let me go into a few more images over here. Here's a great one. So this is really nice. This is from when I had my studio in Woodstock. So a lot of my paintings have bubbles or textural surfaces, and when the light comes across in just the right way, it all jumps forward. Like when you look at it head on, you can't see it that easily, but when you see it like this, it all jumps forward. So you can easily see the star shape around the bubble spherical chakra shapes. And here's another view of the same image, but here you can see like it's much harder to see the chakras that are in there. The star shapes that are in there. Like here's a star, right? And then you can see that there's some other pointy parts here. All right. This one I've used in a lot of my work and a lot of my album covers. It's a really good piece because you can see not only the larger chakra that is here, but also look at all these little tiny baby chakras. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one. And every single one of them has 7 layers. You've got, of course, the larger one, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And then this also has red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet within there. This is what I mean by the mapping of the skin of the torus. Actually, another one. There's another nice view of that particular painting. And you can also see how they are in a grid, but it's not a grid that looks like a checkerboard pattern. It is a curved grid of time space. Good. Let's see what else I want to show you in pictures over here because I don't want to overwhelm you too much. Here's another view of your chakras, but maybe easier to see in some ways and harder to see in other ways because here you can see it's just a line drawing. So your red-orange chakra is here and your blue-violet chakra is here, and those are critical anatomies where 2 chakras come together. Let's show you that this one, of course, is both your side-to-side and your upward-facing ones. You've got more lines there. This one, I think, is a little bit more simplified, and let's make it smaller so you can really see. Accurate. What is accurate here, and what I like about this, is that it shows the red chakra encompasses your whole entire physical form. So it's down below your feet. If you expand your arms out, like all the way out to the sides, your red chakra goes several feet, even wider than that. So all the way up above your head, all the way down below your feet, all the way to the sides of you. That is how big your red chakra extends. It is the biggest of your chakras, all right? And then you can see how your orange chakra is half of that size, yellow is 1/3 of that size, green is 1/4 of that size, and then indigo is 1/6 of that size. I know I missed the one here in the middle because I was skipping with my brain. And then your violet is 1/7 of that size. I know, we'll go through that again because that was fast, but I want to go to this. This is important stuff here. So when I talk about how your higher faculties are intimately connected to your heart, here's your heart and here's your lungs. And you can see how this emanates this big force field that goes all the way up above your shoulders. And then this is the chariot. Here's one wheel and here's the axle that goes through your ears and here's the other wheel. And that chariot runs on the energy of your heart. And when you are truly, I'll go back to my face, truly successful as an aspirant in your spiritual quest for freedom, your chakra system rolls across the territory with no challenge, with no impediment. That is what you're really trying to do with the efforts of self-cultivation and, let us say, of balancing your chakras. Because I'm only holding one, but you know that you have 7 major chakras, right? I don't have tiny little ones to fit this all together, but you must balance them so that they all fit together, and so that your whole entire presence then also balances correctly in time. And balancing means taking something that's at an angle and turning it so that it's like this. And also you want to get these wheels spinning so that they are fast, like bicycle wheels. If you have a bicycle and you're going super slow, what's going to happen? You're going to fall over. But if you have one of those, I call it Tour de France, like your bicycle wheels are really fast and they're just going along, what happens? You don't fall over, and also you go very, very fast. So with your chakras, you want those wheels of energy to be spinning very, very fast. That means that you're not going to destabilize, you're not going to fall over, you're going to stay on the timeline, and you're going to also stay aligned with your optimum timeline and the events that you're actually creating for yourself. Slowing down and falling off of your bicycle means going closer to the membrane of death, and staying fast and remaining erect or balanced on your bicycles or in your chakras means that you keep on heading towards eternal life. Please reconsider any philosophy that tells you that you have to die in order to do anything, because it takes you away from the expectation of eternal life and brings you directly to the membrane of death. It destabilizes your chakras. And yes, I'm going to pre-answer for you if anybody's wondering, I wonder if that's like making it harder for me to stay stabilized around all these people that have religious manias that makes them think that they have to die and then go to heaven before they can be free. And the answer is yes. And those people with religious manias are also doing a lot of bad crapola in your world to try to kill everyone so that everyone can then go to the membrane of death, so that you can all go to some fake paradise where there's clouds but no grass, where you don't want to go. All right. Lanley says, the photo of the energetic realms that you are showing us, are you seeing that simultaneously with the human realm, our bodies layered on top of each other? The answer is yes. So I am clairvoyant, and what I see is I see that stuff. And then I see that stuff in an abstract sense, like in the perfection of reality, but I also see that stuff when I'm working with people in individual sessions. And when I have done my paintings, I've been very, very clear to tell people that the initial work that I'm doing is like an anatomy book. When you get an anatomy book, you're looking at the ideal form, a person who is exactly the way they're supposed to be. So you can learn it the way that a person is supposed to look. Like, this is how you are supposed to look, and then you're supposed to be oriented going up the center like this. But the truth is, very few people have perfect anatomy, and that most people are wibbling wobbling, where they are, I'm like, I'm at this angle of death, but no, I'm at this angle of death, but now I'm at this angle of death. Like the constant making of choices. It's like this goes like this, but this goes like this. And then also because all the chakras are connected, so you might like, I'm fixing something here, but then this part goes the wrong way, and then this part goes the wrong way. So please know that it's very, very complex. And even what I'm painting for you is a simplification. It's an idealistic representation and a simplification of what the body is genuinely experiencing. And also, please know, as I've said, I've labeled myself as clairvoyant. It's one of my psychic gifts. This is not the only way to accurately perceive and portray chakras. You can perceive them as musical tones. I can turn on my piano if you want me to actually turn it on the board, so they change settings, then you would hear it. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, white light. All of the notes are also one way to describe reality. So I could make a music about this type of stuff, and I do make music about this stuff. And there are also other ways to portray and to perceive this truth. So each one of you has this chakra system, and as your light body is awakening and you're figuring out what are your psychic gifts, some of you are clairvoyant and you're like, oh, I saw it. So like, we have wonderful artists in this class. I want to give everybody assignments if you want to take assignments of like, how to actually draw the chakras, or we can do that next week. And I think that maybe that might be better. And we're kind of coming into the home stretch because I'm sensing you guys are saturated. But yes, you should practice with your clairvoyance if that's your natural comfort level. But also, if you perceive this stuff differently, then you should practice expressing it through the way that you perceive it yourself. So yeah, people perceive these things in all sorts of different ways and then express the truth of what the chakras are in all sorts of different ways. All right. And Mary Ellen says, are we even able to balance our own chakras? The answer is yes, you can and you must. So the things that determine if your chakras are either at an angle that is non-optimal or if they are perfectly dialed in and connected to divinity have to do with your emotional states and your mental states. So you should be in control of your own emotional and mental states. Unfortunately, in your world, a lot of things are destabilizing, and those things are sometimes propaganda, lies. Lies can come from books, movies, television, music. Lies can come from 5G, a series of erroneous zigzag energies beaming through the world. Lies can come from, bad food, false light, bad food, also chemicals. Chemicals can be very destabilizing because some forms of molecular structure you should not be exposed to. I mean, you do there, like portals for harm. So lots of environmental factors can destabilize your chakras, and none of that is good. So you should be able to try to be like, I don't want to eat these destabilization chemicals, like red dye number, blah, blah, blah. That's a destabilization chemical. Just no. And so, meth or cocaine or those things, those are destabilization chemicals that you do not want to take. So a lot of pharmaceuticals, chemicals that are used for growing food, and food additives. Those are destabilization chemicals that take the chakras out of alignment. Other things that de-align the chakras are, I already talked about frequencies like 5G, Bluetooth, but even electricity itself. There are so many wonderful stories from the area of Asia where yoga is, an ancient tradition before the time of electricity. So like before the late 1800s, there are a lot of stories that are told like lore, not like fantasies, but of masters who mastered their body, and they could do things that you would consider to be impossible or beyond human. And some of that might be being able to endure extreme exposure to cold, extreme exposure to heat, extreme starvation, bilocation, restoration after amputation, like a lot of amazing stuff. And when electricity became more widely spread on the planet, those spiritual athletes became very few and very far between, because electricity is almost antithetical to the balancing of one's own chakras. It's beyond even having to clear out the interstices, and we'll talk about the putis, those pesky occupiers of the interstices. Maybe we'll, save some for the rest of the semester, but we're just beginning with an intro here. But many things can destabilize your chakras, and electricity is one of them. So for us in this generation, in order to achieve spiritual attainment and to learn how to correctly balance the architecture of your time body and truly be a master, you're having to climb over obstacles and ascend mountaintops that are even more difficult and perilous than any of the other masters that have come before you. Say, those guys had it easy, girl. They sit on a mountaintop in India, no electricity, doing their ascension, doing it, right? This is much, much more difficult and don't want to say unlikely, difficult and improbable to be able to do this, even with all of this electricity and harmful force fields and non-nutritive waveforms that are all around us on this planet. I think I might have missed some little comments here, so let me just squint and scroll. Oh, this is a good question. Joni, thank you for being here. So Saint Germain has associated with the violet flame. Is there any truth to this? So, okay, it's okay. We're gonna finish up class soon. We're gonna wrap it up soon and to hydrate. Storytelling time. Dun-dun. Okay. Saint Germain is a real spiritual persona. like a real spiritual person. And so there's lots of propaganda that's not accurate to who and what he is. Like, there's lots of new age propaganda and stuff like that. But I have good Saint Germain stories. So, because there's lots of things that are about who he was and what he is and what he's doing now. So actually I have two. Well, I don't know if I'll tell you all of them, but because these are power stories and I don't want to dilute them by putting them on the internet. A lot of things that only tell in person, like around the campfire. But let's talk about um, some important Saint Germain stories that I could share. Okay, good. So Saint Germain is very, very associated with Mount Shasta. All right, and I'll tell you more about this. Okay, so Mount Shasta in California is one of the major power centers of the world. There are chakras that correlate to some of the high mountains of the world. And Mount Shasta is an incredibly important and special place to go to. It's power center. It's a place where you can walk between worlds and also where you can have timeline bleed through from previous experiences or concurrent experiences, especially Atlantis. So when I go there, I'm like, oh, I totally remember this place from Atlantis. Although now things have shifted and now things are different. So I'm connecting with my time and myself there and also my time presence here. So very, very powerful stuff that you can do there. Okay. So how long ago was it? Like, because I want to say 10 years ago. So I was living in Northern California, roughly like 8, 9, or 10 years ago. All right. And I went to a conference that was right outside of Mount Shasta. It was at this place called the Emerald Isle House, which was like this mansion that was being rented out for retreats and stuff like that. And I actually went there to talk with people about UFO stuff. It was like a very, very small, pretty selective, not UFO conference, but like people telling their stuff about UFOs. I was not really there as a speaker, but I was trying to be able to share my ideas and flying rainbow lasagna concepts with people. So I went to this rather small gathering. One of the nicest parts of it was after we had done all of the speakers, and we had our dinner. Then we had like storytelling, not around the campfire, but around the indoor fireplace. Okay, so now I'm getting to the good part because we were around Mount Shasta. And so people started to tell their power stories of what they had experienced on the mountain, because there's all of these different portals there. There's all these different things, like people get whisked into parallel dimensions and pop back out and all these cool things that happen. All right, so here's a story about Saint Germain. This one woman told it to us who was there, and I'm not sharing too much by telling you guys her story, okay? So this must have been in the 1980s, and she was with her male traveling companion, just a platonic friend, and he is a very tall and healthy person. They were choosing to walk up Mount Shasta relatively like in the summertime. And what you need to know about that mountain is that it's in California and there is snow at the top, but at the base of the mountain, it can feel like summertime and it can feel very, very nice. But the frozen areas of the mountain are interdimensional places where it's off limits, where it's like you can't go there because it's not just that it's frozen or the road is closed, because it literally is a pathway into another place and your consciousness cannot bear to be in that other place. So she was telling us about how she was going on a hike with this guy, and they're walking up the mountain, and they were really only wearing tennis shoes and not prepared for the snow. And they started to get into the colder areas of the mountain. And as they went into these elevated areas, her friend started to get really sick. He started to get super cold, wasn't okay, like turning, like, lips turning blue, like turning really pale and everything. And he couldn't go on. And she really felt that not only could she go on, she felt very, very healthy, very, very positive. And she knew internally that that was her opportunity to ascend, because this is like an ascension opportunity, like a portal in the world, like where you can go between worlds. And she really had inner turmoil because part of her wanted to go forward and walk up the mountain, go into another dimension and leave everything behind. But part of her was like, if I do that now, I leave my friend here on the mountain and he will die and he will not ascend. So she's like, I'm not going to do that. So even though she was small and he was big and like hale and hearty and everything like that, she kind of like helped him to get down the mountain to where it was warmer. They went back to a cafe or something like that. They got some soup. He ate the soup. He came back, to warmth and everything like that. And then they were driving out of town, and they were like kind of on this little side area. Someone's parked on the side of the road and looking out at like, a vista. And they stop to talk to him. And he says, well, I am a Shakespearean scholar, and I'm about to give a talk over here. I'd like to invite you to my talk. And like, just please know that when you're in Mount Shasta and these other power places, like you take these fluid experiences in stride. Your time is art. And you're like, oh, I'm sorry. Like I am scheduled for a bridal shower in 5 minutes. I can't go to your magical Shakespearean, speech that you're about to give. Like you don't deny these things when you're at Mount Shasta. You're like, okay, this is not by accident that we just survived this near death with this guy going to, die on the mountain. And now I find this guy and he's inviting me to Shakespeare. Okay. So she's like, okay, all right, let's go to this guy's talk on Shakespeare. And he's this little looking guy, like a little short dude with a little white beard, not like a super amazing looking person. So they go to his, not speech, but like his little teaching that he's going to give. There's a whole group of people there in folding chairs. They sit down and little Shakespearean scholar dude starts to give his presentation. And in the moment, the woman who is telling us this campfire story, she says that he changed his face in the moment. And he did not look like a little Shakespearean scholar. He turned to her and he looked like Saint Germain. And Saint Germain is all over these postcards if you go to the gift shops at Mount Shasta. So if I describe him, Saint Germain is blonde with blue eyes, a Caucasian with, nicely chiseled features. And he always has like a little mustache and a little goatee, like very well-trimmed facial hair, and oftentimes like a violet cloak or something like that. And he's very, very much affiliated with the violet flame and with ascension consciousness, okay? And so he turns directly to her and he says, this is your teaching about ascension. And he basically gives her an hour-long scholarly presentation about the specifics, the mechanical dynamics of what is ascension, what is happening when you experience it. He assured her and affirmed to her that she will have other opportunities in her life to ascend and that she didn't miss out on anything by choosing to come back with her companion instead of abandoning him and going onward with her ascension. In fact, he affirmed to her that even receiving this teaching from him was part of her ascension journey, and that by choosing to defer her ascension, she had made the right choice, and brought it all to a close. And then he turns kind of back to the rest of the audience, and then everybody's clapping, like the speech is over, and someone turns to her and says, next to her, like, what a great speech. Like he talked all about Romeo and Juliet. I didn't know that at all. And this lady was like, yeah, sure. Romeo and Juliet. That's what I just experienced and everything like that. Right. And of course, she took that all in stride and had lived many decades subsequent to that. Her life did not end, and brought that story to all of us. Okay. So all of that in order to say that, yes, Saint Germain is not only a very real historical presence, but you should take those stories with a bit of salt. If you hear about his hijinks organizing different political brigades in Europe. But please know that Saint Germain and the Violet Flame are very real spiritual presences, very real protective and guiding presences, especially affiliated with Mount Shasta. But please don't fall for imposters. You have to watch out for lower astral spiritual imposters. And also, please don't fall for erroneous recipes. That would be like, okay, if you want to ascend, all you have to do is like twirl around 3 times and say, I invoke the violet flame of, Mr. Saint Germain, and then boom, like you're going to be there. Please know that that is not how it works. And so some of those belief systems are, comically simplistic and erroneous, but dangerous, perilous to the people who genuinely believe that that's all it takes. And please also know that you can, I think, make a good connection with Saint Germain, even if you're not at Mount Shasta. But all of my connections have been from Mount Shasta. I have a personal connection and a personal experience with this. And I don't want to say it here. We will say it next time we're in each other's presence around a campfire, but you guys can ask me about it, because I'll just say Saint Germain purchased one of my paintings, and it certainly helped me in my life immensely. Okay. After I came back from Mount Shasta one time. Okay. So ask me about it another time. Great. Because I don't want to dilute the energy of that. And let me go one more. Okay. So here's another question from Lan. Thank you. It says, does your micro telekinesis have to do with being able to memorize and visualize these energetic anatomies? Partially, yes. Part of my micro telekinesis comes from my connection to time, like my psychic gifts are clairvoyance and also other things too. And also, I'm a connection to time person, and I don't know what the name, like clairvoyance is easy, but I don't know what the name of a psychic gift where you connect to time is, what it is called, but that is what I have. And so, because time space connection and the microgravity wells of telekinesis, I'm able to do that really through my connection with time. And when I look at people's energetic anatomies and their lives, actually, that is how I use those abilities to relate a lot to the service work that I do in personal sessions. Like if a person asks me about the guidance of their life, or like where they should go, or what they, this is not even coming correctly. Not when a person asks me. When I am in the position of offering insight to a person about their life, to be able to give them good information that can either propel them onto this timeline over here or this timeline over here. I am always perceiving a person's chakra system. And I know if I choose this phrase, the person's going to go on a good timeline over here. And if I say this in a crappy, not good way, then this could screw them up and send them over to here. So people know this about me too, especially when I'm in the psychic presence of doing a type of session, that I always choose my words very carefully, but I don't edit myself, because I'm very aware of how I am influencing some things I can say makes a person go more like this. Some things I can say make a person go like this. And I'm always sensing with what I'm doing. So that's not only with how I'm teaching, or what I'm saying sometimes in answering people's questions, because sometimes people might ask a question about a relationship, or they might need guidance, or how I am relating to someone's physical body and able to tell them like, hey, you have a thing in your body, and if you do this, your body will improve and you'll have a long life. But if you do this, your body won't improve. All of that is related to my perception of human chakras. So when I have these gifts, when I first came here, I was always perceiving all of these chakras and challenges in people's anatomy. But just as I did not know, like you have to put a frame around a painting in order to be perceived and respected by humans. You can't just put artwork in random places. You can't just go to people randomly and say like, I see this or that about your chakras, and you need to take some astragalus and that'll clear that right up. And I knew so many things about people's bodies, but I was like, that guy's got toenail fungus, and that guy has a liver problem, that guy is this, and that guy is this, and everybody needs something. But at that was like over 20 years ago. I was not articulate and not in a place in society to be able to offer that type of information. So it's taken a long time for me to be able to gain the social presence and the articulation to be able to see what I see about people's chakras and their lives, and have people be receptive to it and make the correct changes. Because like, you know, this used to be me. Let's just close class with this. And I have lots of things that I want to keep on telling you about on my clipboard, but we're all tired and we need to let our brains rest. But I used to stand around with, this is my original lasagna sculpture, and it's made out of Sculpey, and I baked it in the oven. And so it's got like ridges. Oops, it's got ridges on it. That also, it has, you know what that is? That's from my plants. My plants have shed on this. And so now I have shed coming all off of here. But these ridges that were from putting it on the oven so that it could bake in there. So the original proto lasagna. So I used to stand around with the proto lasagna on a random sidewalk in Woodstock and be like, hi, like flying rainbow lasagna. And people did not even know that. What is this? Why are you accosting me with this information? Like, why is this all about? And so it has taken a lot for me to be able to figure out how to approach humanity with information, how to approach humanity with these higher perspectives, how to figure out when people are receptive to comprehending even something about the nature of the architecture of the universe, and then also comprehending and being receptive to things about their life. I learned that people are not always open to the voice of reason in their life. And I always try to be the voice of reason, which might sound very strange for an extraterrestrial flying rainbow lasagna to play that role. But I'm like, I am the voice of reason. I'm trying to tell you good stuff to get you off of harmful timelines onto better timelines. But people aren't always ready to listen to a random sidewalk dweller with a strange looking sculpture, you know? So yeah, being able to make things palatable. And I came from a world where there's no lying, where people aren't psychopaths and egomaniacs. So I had to learn like, oh, these people are Also protecting themselves from bad ideas and from erroneous food. Because I learned at a certain point, like, oh, like you can't just stand around with like food on the sidewalk and be like, here, like I made some food, have it, eat it. Because people are going to be like, what did you put in it? Is it poisonous? Is it this? Is it that? So I learned like, oh, you got these skeptical people and they're all super traumatized and they can't hear this type of stuff from me. So I have to now put it in a palatable way that is also validating. Um, okay, and here's wait, more questions. I'm sorry, squint and scroll. Okay, and this is also follow-up from Marianne. Question, Mary Ellen, sorry, brain is tired. Questions about other types of species and whether they have chakras. Do other races have any chakras, like different extraterrestrial races? And if they do, why are the negative races, who it seems are on the death timeline, live so long? So it's a complex question because there are not really extraterrestrial species anymore because of the events of the past 5 years. But let's speak in generalities, or a time when, yes, there are various different space races or different types of species in various different types of places. And the ones that are not that are basically using technology and other types of accoutrements to subvert natural reality are the ones that are you would call negative. And when you say it seems like they're on their death timeline, right? Like whatever, evil reptilians, and they are using clank metal spaceships, and here they are gleefully flying towards the membrane of death. They're like, membrane of death, let's go, let's go, let's go. And then why do they tend to live so long? And really, one of the answers to that is that some of these harmful species are self-aware enough to know, everyone I know is using these clanking metal spaceships and they keep on flying from the membrane of death and not having a very long life. I want to use technology but have a very long life. So what I'm going to do is, I'm an evil alien right now, siphon energy off of natural creatures who don't use technology and who do have a naturally long life. And this is the origins of why we have the world of mortality here instead of the pristine antediluvian world where nobody dies. The invaders and ones who harmed our world, they really took the entire planetary chakra system that was like this and made it go like this. And death was invented on this planet because they wanted your life force energy so that they could sustain themselves just a little bit longer. And the people that I'm talking about, people is in air quotes, it's a good opportunity for me to say, that's the pooties, those pesky occupiers of the interstices. P-O-O-T-I. So, of course, hat tip eternally to Pedro, a very long-term veteran of this class. And I don't know if he's here right now because he's in a wildly different time zone, but we always love Pedro and appreciate that you gave us that acronym. And also, Pedro gave me the acronym of GOTA, because I'd never heard of this. This is like from video games. Game over, try again. Pac-Man gets eaten by the ghost. What happens? He dissolves. And then what do? Put in another 25-cent piece and you get another life. And then it goes, here's another life, and you can do it again. And of course, that's very facile. That's not what's really happening with you, but it is an accurate depiction that throughout your life, as a process of refinement, your consciousness hits the membrane of death, and then what happens? It is unformed, not discombobulated, but like disarranged, brought back to its original elements, and then brought back to the beginning. This is the level over here, is the beginning of birth, in a slightly different position, with a slightly different prerogative, and goes through the time field at a slightly different angle. And then it tries again, reaches the wrong conclusions, and goes back to the beginning. So this is the concept. Game over, try again. Now, when I say that, I don't want you to throw away your life. I don't want you to be like, Aurora told me it's just a video game, and it doesn't matter how many times I get destroyed on the highway or crushed in a submersible or whatever, stabbed with a sword. It doesn't matter because I'm just going to recirculate and try again. That's the worst attitude, because what you really want to do is avoid the membrane of death, not experience infinite death. The world has deformed people's minds to think that death is inconsequential, or that you should first experience infinite amount of death and then experience eternal life. And I'm saying to you, you shouldn't even experience death one time. But in your world, people are very indoctrinated because the bodies are so malformed that the only times when people really have a divine connection is death. You don't know what the F is going on for your whole entire life, or who you are, or what you're doing. Then people die, and they finally get that connection. So this is my hard drive over here. This is what I use to contain my information in life. I have my music stuck on here and some artwork and some other things. But imagine that this is like your soul and records everything you've been through, every peanut butter and jelly sandwich and every other wonderful experience that you've ever experienced, but you haven't been meditating and sending this back to the source and back to divinity. And so it's stuck in your hard drives, and the sun and the stars and divinity do not know what is really going on in your life until you die. And when you die, they get your hard drive. And you're like, oh, okay, sun, stars, here's everything that I've been as this person, whoever, Joe Schmo. And then the sun and the stars is like this, doodle it, like it's going into the brain. And they're like, that's amazing. You've been through so much in your life. I wish I had known this earlier because I would have helped you. I would have optimized your life. I would have made it so that you didn't get that terrible disease. And you also didn't, die on the highway and then have this bad problem and then be talking to me here from the membrane of death. And you as a conscious, you're like, wait a minute, I'm not even supposed to die. And that's like, yeah, you're not even supposed to die. And also, you're supposed to turn in your homework during life, not just at the end of life. Then get back in there and try it harder, right? Let's do this better. So of course, that's all a hilarious simplification of what is supposed to happen. But please know that when you meditate, turn off your verbalized talking mind, you clear the blockages at the level of yellow, and all of those impulses can get up through your DNA to divinity, and you can talk to God about your life. And you should. And talking to God about your life is nonverbal, which is why I don't really relate to human prayer, where it's like, God, like my life sucks, like please help me. You have to talk non-verbally to God about how hard your life sucks and how much you need things to get better. And that is done through these bliss states, flow state, and mindfulness practices. So I would encourage you to be able to reach the true abstract nature of your divine connection, to talk to yourself as God, to improve the actions of your life. All right, so we'll talk more about those pesky pooties and what to do with them in future classes, of course. Yes, and Mary Ellen's appreciating my storytelling. Good. Yoni says, one day at the fire, we will share. Please, I love it when people come to my in-person activities because I can really be unedited and tell all of these stories. Not just that I'm protecting myself. It's not that I have done things that are illegal or bad, but I want you to know some stories I only tell in person and some things I only tell to certain people. Some stories are power stories, like that woman who told me about her experience with meeting Saint Germain and what it meant to her. You don't listen to those types of stories with rational skepticism or boredom or self-service where you're like, yeah, enough about you, but I want to tell about my miracles. These are important stories. And when they come to us, they are a type of nourishment that tells us about what is possible in the world. And I don't want to pee and poop all over those beautiful stories. Not that you guys are, but what I want to do is only deploy them in the right moments so that when they come inside of people, they make you more aware of the profound, miraculous nature of yourself and of the world that we are within. So I use those stories as very, very selective, whatever you would call it, flavorings or sprinkles or something like that for people at just the right time and just the right way. And hopefully it is powerful and reminds them of magic or the pure potential of what is beyond rational in the world. And I have lots of great stories like that, but they're not things to be examined with the intellect, but they are stories to be experienced. And then I also would really want for others to share their stories too. And then what happens is that I become a container of your information and you contain some of my information. So these are cool reciprocities. Lan says, is the life review people experience during a near-death experience the downloading of experiences to the sun? I am cheering. Yes. The answer is yes. And thank you for asking that. So yeah, unfortunately, up until very recent times, people had near-death experiences. And that was one of the only brief windows when they could connect to the sun, because there are really problems with the body Like when you're in the body, very, very difficult for you to talk to divinity and connect with divinity. And so, unfortunately, sometimes people even get not addicted to, but entrained to the expectation that they have to have a crisis, like a medical crisis, a life altering disease, or a terrible car accident to be able to really get that level of perspective. Sometimes people come back from surgery or from an accident and they're like renewed. They're like, oh, I saw the other side, or I got perspective about my life. I know what I need to do now. Or unfortunately, sometimes a drug overdose. And I don't want anyone to ever have to overdose to be able to get your act together and find out who you really are as a person. So you live in a very, very garbage world if people have to have some kind of a head-on collision to then remember who they are as divinity and move forward and be evolving as a soul. None of that is part of the original brochure. All of that is part of being crashed in the Titanic. But so when I say up until very recently, like the rules of being a walk-in changed after I walked in 2001, and also some of these aspects of near-death experience recontextualized after 2001, because it used to be that to be a walk-in, you had to have like a real physical cessation of your body processes, and then someone else would come in, like the real soul has left, and then the new person comes in, and that was usually a real problem with the body, like a death, a real accident, a real mangling of the body. But there's real problems with that because then you got to fix your body before you can do stuff to help humanity. After 2001, it became possible for people to come into the body if there's not a body destruction, the heart doesn't have to stop. And also people can make a arrangement, but not a fake arrangement, but like I know people where the original person decided that they weren't going to physically kill themselves, they were going to relinquish a relinquishment of their existence, and then something else taking on that mantle. So walking in became easier, but I don't want you to think that it's like easy as pie or anything like that. But people used to do an attempt to kill themselves, and then they would have, they would be released, and then something else would come into them. But now things are different. You don't have to destroy the body in order to have that upgrade of your soul agreements. And same thing with being able to connect to the sun. You shouldn't have to have your body destroyed or imperiled to be able to have that connection. You should be able to talk to the sun anytime, any day, all day long, every day. And when the sun knows who you are and what is going on in each moment, then you're not imperiled. You're actually safe at all times. But you have to have that connection, which has been difficult because of genetic mutilations. That's why flying rainbow lasagna. Flying rainbow lasagna and fix your DNA and improve your DNA. And then you don't have to go face first through a windshield to be able to talk to God. That is good. And one more question, Mary Ellen says, how long to meditate daily? Case by case basis. The answer is that's like asking like how many push-ups should you do? Like case by case basis. And some people should do like the modified push-ups on their knees, and some people should do like the full push-ups, with their whole body. All right. So meditation depends upon who you are, how your muscle power, your spiritual muscle powers are, and also what form of meditation. So I do a lot of meditation, like I said, when I'm doing a walk with my dog, or doing some type of exercise. I don't really just going to sit. Very bad at just sitting and doing nothing. So for me, meditation is almost always active and involves doing stuff. Each person must figure out their own style of meditation. Some people love to sit. Some people like to be in a rocking chair because the rocking thing really does do stuff with your vestibular eustachian tube and your brain and all that things. Please know that the rocking is very positive and very good. Some people like to be in a hammock or a swing or something like that. Like these are important things. I like to float in the tub. I do like that. So I'll create a bathtub with positive, like I want to say healing crystals, like salt and magnesium and stuff in there, and then put nice candle lamps and beeswax candles around me, and maybe put on music or maybe just be in silence. But like that's a good way for me to like not be moving and get into the right feeling state. But some people love to just sit, and you have to figure out what is right for you. And I would say different styles of meditation for different times. People want to know, is it safe to meditate? Because I've cautioned in the past from just opening yourself up to anything, because that's also not that advised in this world that is very garbage. People need to be able to quiet their talking mind, but please do not open yourself up to entity possession or inhabitation by anything that's like, ah, look at that, a nice, quiet human container. I think I would just like to jump inside of you, do bad stuff in the world. Got to make sure that you maintain your spiritual boundaries when you go into inner silence, and then also make sure your energy goes into your energetic bank account. So when you meditate, you should feel like you're accelerating. So like when we do lasagna, that's my version where I'm like, vroom, 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 let's accelerate. And then when I have all of that energy at the end of my lasagna, I want to make sure no one's going to rain on my parade. You know what that feels like. You might be in a great mental state, and then either somebody looks at you wrong or says the wrong thing or shoots a bunch of negative energy at you. And then all of a sudden you're like not in a euphoria, or you're not in a divinely connected state anymore. And they are taking energy from you. So spiritual boundaries when you're doing your meditation, and that can look like a Merkaba or an intention, just a safety perimeter around you. But then when you get your money, when you get paid, ka-ching, please do not let yourself be burglarized when you walk down the street, anybody taking your energy from you or looking at you in the wrong way, because that's like going from a aligned position like this to being on the side. It's amazing how other people can influence the alignment of your chakras if they do bad stuff to you. Like if you're walking down the street, you're like, I'm feeling so great, dum, 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 dum. And if someone shouts at you from a car, like, you're a fat hoe, then your energy goes down. Someone called me a fat hoe. Like, this is not good. This is not good. So you gotta have your energetic boundaries. If someone shouts something inappropriate at you, then you're just like, yo, mama. And you don't let it get to you. All right. This is what I'm trying to say. Okay, good. So on that hilarious note, let's wrap it up because everybody's tired. And even though we see Chiki's right there, we're gonna take Chiki outside. Even though this is repeat, and many people are in my class for many, many years, I hope that I'm always giving you updated viewpoints. And also when it is repetitive, we're going over things that we are mastering on a deep foundational level, like 1 + 1 = 2. These math skills will serve you very well, even when you're at the PhD level. So all the things that we're talking about in terms of what these colors are, what these proportions are, what these chakras are, and what they're doing will serve you very, very well going forward. Okay. So don't worry. This is just the first day of class. We're not going to get through everything. We got lots and lots of good stuff. So please do your homework and access both level 1, lesson 1. And then also I'm going to continue with this stuff. We haven't gotten through everything next week. We also need to do level 1, lesson 2, which is going to be a multi-part lesson because it's a 4-part lesson full of very, very dense information, and it also relates to the concept of a frequency language. So let's return next week and keep going with the same back channel. And Mary Ellen says, thank you. Have a good night. Was fun. Thank you so much. I'm very, very pleased for people to come to class, and I try to make it fun because it's a lot easier to learn and remember new things when it's fun and uplifting. Nicole says, thank you. You're very, very welcome. Positive energy to each one of you. Thank you so much to everybody who is an enrolled student. Thank you. Oh, Joyce says, thank you. You're so very, very welcome. And to anyone who is not an enrolled student, I will totally encourage and invite you, become formally enrolled. The link is always going to be there, and you can get all of the recorded whiteboards. And if you want to, you can do Patron as like a monthly subscription instead of paying the tuition all at once. Either of those things are accepted and celebrated. And thank you to everybody who supports my work. I'm very, very pleased to be here as a cosmic interdimensional teacher. It's totally my job joy. And I'm so pleased for the people who receive this information and support me in what I'm doing. Thank you. Thank you very much. And press the button now.